Okay, when you're ready, give me a countdown and all that stuff, and let me know when you want the time to start.
Alright, sounds good. Yeah, this is going to be Tales of Vesperia, New Game Plus. This is the definitive edition, which we'll talk a little bit more about some of that stuff. Right before we get started, though, one little housekeeping thing. We're in the grade shop here, which is where you decide what perks you want for New Game Plus. Figured I'd show that off briefly before we got going. So, let's go ahead. You can see we've selected Easy, and we'll go ahead and start the run in 3, 2, 1, go. So, starting off right out of the gate, you can skip cutscenes in this game, which that's a pretty good quality of life thing for a speed game. There's a few cutscenes in the game we can't skip, but it's very few ultimately. So for those of you wondering what New Game Plus might entail in a game like this, generally what that means is we're going to be able to carry over a lot of very broken sort of mechanics and so on and so forth. One other interesting thing is we also are able to put on... Sorry, I'm focusing here for a second to make sure I equip the right abilities. Okay, so we're also able to put on some DLC items. This game comes with free DLC if you buy it like on the Switch shop, for example, and those are allowed for the main game leaderboard, which is pretty cool. And one of those comes with a perk of increasing your movement speed by a decent amount. So, you know, that certainly speeds things along. Now, you'll notice we're wearing a pretty unique costume. Our main character is here, for those of you who may be familiar with this game. And it's because, you know, again, New Game Plus, so I've inherited all sorts of wacky costumes, and none of the characters are going to look quite how you remember them, because, I don't know, I've just chosen ones that I personally feel are aesthetically interesting. But speaking of that, there is a donation incentive for a specific costume that we can enact at any point through this run for the Barely There Black Bikini. I wanted to give a bit of a shameless plug to that, because it's objectively hype, you know, and it's barely there, which is pretty cool. That won't come into play until a little bit later in the run, but if you want to see that, definitely get some donations in. But let's talk more about the run itself. So coming in here, you know, we're doing the intro of the game. We started off by equipping some of our, you know, extremely overpowered weapons and equipment. Equipped a few abilities, because we did carry our abilities over into this playthrough. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't expect to do that. That's okay. So, first thing here is we have a little tutorial where the game teaches us about some very basic combat sort of things.
Hey, let's...
We just simply mash through it. You can also say no to skip it entirely, which I just was busy talking and didn't hit no. So that's a pretty weird time loss, but you know, it is what it is. You get to at least hear some funny dialogue. These two characters are sort of the Tweedledee, Tweedledum of the game. Anytime there's some sort of like battle tutorial kind of situation, these two guys are going to pop up, and that'll be about 3 times in the run. We're going to be skipping the other 2 small tutorials. But now we can just go boom and finish the fight in a single attack. Now that attack there is called Douse Blast.
You should thank me.
And what it is Yuri, our main character here, has a move called Destruction Field, which it sort of just makes a little like area of effect kind of attack. You can equip a piece of equipment called the Douse Cape, which severely buffs the attack. So here we're going to say no to doing the tutorial, so we can just continue on through. Now what's happened here is we broke into a manor. We'll keep up with the lore a little bit, and we got arrested for doing so, but we've now broken out of jail. And like every good JRPG, the game starts off with us immediately running into a princess that is in, you know, some trouble right at the start. But we're just going to work our way through this castle. Now, we will be coming back to this castle a little bit later to sort of complete it proper. But now I'm going to go into my inventory, and I'm going to use an item called a Holy Bottle. Now, Holy Bottles are probably one of the, if not the most important thing in this run. What they do is you can still get into enemy encounters if you walk against an enemy hitbox for too long, but more importantly, enemies won't even really bother to try and come to us, because unlike a lot of JRPGs, the Tell series, you don't really have random battles. It's just more so,
You got the wrong.
you know, you can see them on the field and stuff, and as long as you can avoid, you know, coming into contact with them, you won't be getting into any fights, which is a good thing for a speedrun. But we're going to be using holy bottles a lot. Now, there is an inverse to that called a dark bottle, which draws enemies towards you, which does have some interesting applications. But, you know, we fought the first boss there. That is Zoggy. We'll be seeing him 5 times throughout the run, counting that time there. And you'll notice that I just completely mowed Zoggy down, just by simply using Azure Edge on him. And, again, that's because we're extremely overpowered. Most boss fights are going to be extremely fast, but that doesn't mean there aren't some skills involved to some of the various battle mechanics you'll be seeing throughout the run. Now, what I found really striking about learning this speedrun myself is the amount of preparation it takes to run this category, optimally at least. And I still, to be perfectly, you know, clear, I still don't actually even have all of those things done yet myself. Yet I already have a really good time that's within about 2 minutes of the world record in normal mode. I prefer to run on easy myself, not only because it's easier, but also because it's a little bit faster, because enemies have a bit less HP, you don't have to be quite as conscious about certain things. So this fight here is normally designed to teach you about linking battles, which is like, you know, there'll be 2 enemies close together and you'll get into a battle with a larger group of enemies as a result. But I actually have a skill equipped called Link Slash, which makes that unable to happen. So it saves a little bit of time right there to just have that equipped. This is one of 2 obligatory sewer areas. And we got plenty of time to go over information about the run. So, you know, I'll take my time a little bit in explaining certain things as we go throughout. But like I said, the vast amount of staggering things you have to do to prepare for this run to do it optimally is completely insane. Now, if you run on PC, it's as simple as doing some file editing. But if you run on console, you're not quite as lucky unless you know, want to potentially try to mod your console or something, which I personally do not. I don't really have anything against it, but I like being able to access the eShop. But we're finally about to leave the first area, the city of Zophius, for the capital city of this game, where the big evil empire lives. And then we're going to be getting our 3rd party member right after that. So we already have Yuri and the princess, but you'll notice that all of our fights have had only Yuri in them so far. And the reason for that is I have an ability equipped called Stand Alone, which makes Yuri be the only person in battle. This is extremely important. After each fight, there's a little bit of battle dialogue, and it saves quite a bit of time not to have to deal with that. Also, the character AIs in your team can do some unexpected things sometimes, to say the least. So we want to avoid as many weird situations like that as possible. But here we have our next character, Rapide. Now, Rapide is a dog. And what I find really interesting about Rapide compared to other sort of animal companions in RPGs is Rapide's just a straight-up character that you can just use in your party. It's not like a bonus sort of situation or anything like that. Like, it's just, here's a dog that's in your team, which, that's pretty cool. So we're coming here to Daedon Hold, which is, I don't know, kind of like your sort of generic second town in an RPG, so to speak. The very first thing that happens is we get a tutorial on how to use skills that can't be skipped, which we already know how to do that, so we just mash through it. And a lot of running this game, other than preparing, at least for New Game Plus, is just trying to get a good grip on memorizing where all these story triggers are and the quickest way to get back and forth from each of them. It can be somewhat challenging to keep up with. Now you'll also notice that we have our sword there is pretty interesting looking. It looks kind of like a bat wing or something. Almost kind of like Riku's E-Blade, only a bit more red, I guess. That's called the Abyssion, It is one of the devil arms in the game, or rather in this game I suppose they're called the Fell arms. Most of the Tales of series, they're called devil arms, and the way they work, it varies a little bit from game to game in the series, but the way they work in this game is they're pretty powerful out of the gate. Not too powerful, but they're pretty strong. But for every enemy you kill, it gets +1 to physical attack, which is means that you can make them completely broken. And we've obviously done that in this situation. Yuri has 9,999 attack, and I can firmly tell you that does not happen quickly in the slightest. It takes a long time to grind that up. I've also gotten a few abilities or arts on Yuri completely maxed out as well, with 9,999 uses. Because with each 2,000 uses or so, they gain some perks. So we've got the most powerful skills completely powered up on our main character. So we did just get our 4th party member there, Carol. Carol's not really going to be that important until one fight later that could go very, very wrong. I'll probably drop a safety save right before it, just to be extra sure that we'll be alright. It can get a little strange. But here we are coming into the 3rd town. This is Halor, the sort of flower city that has a big tree around it. One thing that's always bugged me about running this game is the incessant amount of, not cutscenes, but very unnecessary text boxes. For like, if a party member's like, ooh, I want to go look at this, when you enter a town and they walk away, you'll get a text box saying, you know, such and such left the party. And then you'll take 3 steps to the left to where they went, and then, you know, it'll be like, such and such rejoined the party. And it's just, a little irritating. But what's going on here in Halor is the tree that protects the city, the sort of sacred tree, is sick. And as such, monsters and whatnot can enter the town. And we've been asked to make a panacea bottle to heal the tree. What this really serves as more so is a tutorial on how the synthesis shop sort of function works in this game. And it sends us on a little quest to get the ingredients needed to synthesize a panacea bottle. Now, we already have a panacea bottle in our inventory, which is worth noting, but these story triggers unfortunately still have to be hit. So we have to go collect the items regardless as part of the main story, or the game won't let us progress. But as a result of this, we will get to actually skip synthesizing the panacea bottle afterwards, which is the only glitch in this speedrun. It's called the panacea bottle glitch, which only applies to New Game Plus. So we got our 2nd ingredient there, the Nia fruit, which is I don't know if I remember to talk to the mayor or not. I'll find out when I get back, I guess.
Let's get this over with.
But yeah, we got the Nia fruit, which is one of 3 ingredients we need for our panacea bottle. Now we're going to be getting our 2nd ingredient, the egg bear claw, and we're just going to head straight back to Halor. This game doesn't have too much back and forth, but there's definitely a little bit more of it than I would prefer as far as the speed game goes. It can be a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Not quite repetitive, more so just feels a lot like padding. To be fair, this game did come out in 2006, originally at least. Oh yeah, that's worth mentioning. We are on the definitive edition, which comes with, you know, a variety of quality of life improvements, a couple additional characters, more costumes. It's been fully upgraded to HD, obviously, and yeah, comes with you know, some interesting sort of perks. But I don't remember if I talked to the mayor or not when I was leaving. I didn't. That's okay. That's our 3rd ingredient. Normally I talk to the mayor there first. I just forgot to because I was talking at the time. But yeah, you can just skip over that whole sequence right there. What I did there, all that rapid blinking, was me doing the glitch to skip over synthesizing the panacea bottle, so that's pretty fun. The only glitch in the game. It saves like, I don't know, 10 or 15 seconds. So anyway, now we're going to use the panacea bottle and heal the tree, which finishes off what we're doing in Halor. Now we are going to be coming back to Halor 2 other times in the speedrun. Once pretty soon after this, and another time pretty far in, about 2 hours in. But we're going to go ahead and leave Halure, and we're going to go to the next town. The beginning of the game is a lot of sort of... Oops, I gotta go see the mayor. A lot of sort of housekeeping, I guess you could say, where we're more or less just rounding up all the party members, kind of figuring out how this world works. All that sort of stuff. So now we're going to Ospio, which is the city of mages, if you will. You know, there's always got to be one of those, where it's just a town full of magician people. And you can probably already guess we're going to be getting our Black Mage here. We already have our healer, which we're never going to use. And actually, we're never going to use the Black Mage either, but we are required to go pick her up for the team to continue the game. So here we are in Ospio. Pretty interesting area. We are going to be revisiting here a few times in the run as well for a variety of things. One point later on, we'll be revisiting and we'll be playing as the character who wears the barely there black bikini. So, I mean it. Get some donations in. We want to not see that bikini because it's barely there. So, we just picked up our black mage character, Rita. Or rather, magic user, offensive magic user, whatever term you want to use. We'll just stick to the Final Fantasy lingo for the sake of clarity. And then we're going to be going to the first proper dungeon. It's a pretty straightforward dungeon. There's a few little kind of tutorial-esque things in them, including one of the very few unskippable cutscenes. So normally I try not to use the holy bottle here unless I see one of those buffalo enemies appear on the field. They're really fast and they will chase you down. So I unfortunately had to go ahead and use a holy bottle there, which isn't ideal, but, you know, it happens. Better than getting into an encounter. So here we are in the first dungeon. It's a pretty short dungeon. There's definitely shorter in the game, but this one's alright. As far as the first dungeon goes, I've seen worse. Sort of a water theme going on, you know. So here is one of, like, maybe 4 or 5 cutscenes in the game that we can't skip. I don't know why you can't skip this cutscene either. Quite unusual. But we're getting an item that's a staple in the Tales of series called the Sorcerer's Ring. Now, the Sorcerer's Ring is essentially your puzzle MacGuffin. You can shoot a little, you know, just blast of energy out of it, and it can, you know, react in different ways, just depending on whatever the general theme or mechanic is for the dungeon. I kind of like the, you know, it's weird. I mentioned Conker's Bad Fur Day yesterday, but I kind of look at this also like Conker's Bad Fur Day, where it's like you have the context-sensitive pads, where it's like, oh, if you just go on this and press action button, Y thing happens. Sorcerer's Ring is kind of similar, in all honesty. But yeah, now that we got the Sorcerer's Ring, we're gonna head this way, and the game is gonna teach us about preemptive encounters and back encounters. So we're gonna go ahead and fight a couple fights here. Now you'll notice I do have Repeat on my team, our dog. That's very intentional. Sometimes it's nice to, you know, have a buddy, but sometimes if I have a weird enemy layout, Repeat will, I got Repeat set to specifically target the enemies that are furthest away, meaning I can sort of just wipe out the main group and Repeat will, you know, charge straight in and hopefully finish the fight more quickly. It doesn't always work out that way, but more often than not, Repeat's a good dog. There are very few situations where Repeat has done something that I've been like, dang it, bad dog. So those are pretty rare. So unfortunately, anytime we have some sort of puzzle thing to solve, those can't be skipped, which is, you know, it is what it is. You gotta watch things lift out of the ground. All the you know, fully animated cutscenes, not important, but watching things like, you know, these stairs lift up out of this water, definitely can't skip that. I guess to be fair, it is showing you where to go next, so it is kind of important information for the gameplay. We're just about at the end of this dungeon. Unfortunately, most of the dungeons in this game, and this is kind of because it's an older JRPG, once you're finished, you simply just have to leave all the way back through, which I'm not a huge fan of. That's one sort of modern convenience I really like compared to, you know, some of the more... this game's not super old, but it's definitely an older JRPG by modern standards. And that's one thing I've never been a huge fan of, is having to backtrack to places I've already been when they're finished. But it is what it is. We'll have a nice little journey. Nice little romp across the countryside, if you will. So coming up here is what I would kind of consider the first true boss. Zoggy's more of like a tutorial boss. Getting? This is the Guardian. And you'll see just how brokenly OP we are when I fight this with one hand.
Who the hell would
Boom,
build
we
something
win.
that's this?
Lovely. Most bosses are going to go like that. There are a few, though, where I got to be a bit more mentally involved. So you'll see there a holy bottle ran out. When we have a holy bottle active, you'll notice this kind of white glow coming off of Yuri. Or in some cases later, Judith, when we have to play as Judith, but we're not quite there yet. And then we just work our way out of the dungeon, and we're going to head back to Osteo. Sometimes that frog enemy that I just went past, or I guess it's kind of a frog, sometimes they're just really in the way in a very awkward sort of position. We got lucky here, though. We got a really good enemy layout right there as well. There's about 3 different configurations I've seen the game generate there, and that's definitely the best one. Yeah, we've officially finished the first dungeon, and in my opinion, this is when the game kind of really begins. We start getting down into the real nitty-gritty of, like, just deep tells of Vesperia, if you will. Like, we've done the first intro dungeon. Now we're ready to start, you know, treading across the ocean and all that sort of stuff. So our next sort of journey that we're going to be making after we do a couple things here in Osteo, in particular Rita has left the party, mostly because she wants to go and figure out what was happening in that dungeon we were just in. She's sort of a researcher in the world's lore, and she went back to her house here to, you know, take care of a couple odds and ends. It's interesting though, because she initially declines to rejoin the party, and then you get to the end of this bridge, and she's like, you know what? Yeah, I'll go with you. There's a lot of things like that in this game that, personally, I find them to be a little irritating. There's one character in particular that's terrible for that. Sort of leaves the party, rejoins the party. Leaves the party, rejoins the party. So it's frustrating. Coming up, though, is one of the more interesting parts of the run, in my opinion. Pretty cool strategy. There's another battle tutorial coming up, but we're not actually even going to do it. What we're doing is we're going to take Yuri out of the main party. Now, those of you who are astute may have noticed that I also equipped Standalone on Repeat. The way Standalone works is any character with that ability on, they'll be the only characters that appear in battle if they're in your main party. So if I only had it on Yuri, we would only be seeing Yuri. If I had it on 3 instead of 4 of the characters in the main party, we'd only see it on those 3 in battle. Now, though, I only have it on Repeat. So what do you think is going to happen in that situation? So, it's interesting because the tutorial coming up expects you to be playing as Yuri. But because we can't be Yuri, because Yuri's not in the party, we're going to do it as Repeat. We're going to play as Doggo. And, wow, I've never seen him do an overlimit like that. That's really weird. So yeah, Repeat's pretty broken too. Not as broken as Yuri. Just as broken as he needs to be to get through some of those some of those easier fights. And there is going to be one other instance in the, actually 2 other instances in the run, where we're going to specifically use only Repeat in battle to skip some things. But now it's time to get Yuri back into the fold here. Again, Yuri is much stronger and as such much more useful. Then we're going to Emid Hill, which has probably one of the most egregious examples of the character leaving and then rejoining. And so Carol left the party. Take like 6 steps forward. Carol rejoined the party. It's just so ridiculous. It's like alright, game, we get it. There is a really not difficult boss per se coming up. It's definitely difficult in the higher difficulties, but when you're first trying to play this game, this is a bit of an early game roadblock for a lot of casual playthroughs. It was for me, even. We're going to use Final Gale on it, though. We got a pretty bad small dog layout. Also, hello, running a week. Noticed you hopping in, and you asked a question here. Let's see. Wouldn't spawning everything at once, then killing everything at once be faster than having to kill 2 waves? Yes. It would, but it varies on if you can do that, I suppose. It just depends on the fight itself. So here we go. We're gonna go ahead and leave Emmett Hill, which is a pretty short area, all things considered. It's mostly just a boss fight. And I suppose this game would be quite a bit longer and more irritating if we didn't have a billion holy bottles, so we could just avoid encounters. Which is, you know, always a good time. Then we're going to be working our way to one of the 2 port towns in the game. Now, there's kind of 3, but 2 proper ones. This is Kefka North. We'll be coming here a few times. This sort of becomes like one of the main hubs of the party.
Let's get this over with.
So these guys, you don't find out who they are for a while.
It's not over yet.
I'll go ahead and spoil it. They are from a guild called the Leviathan's Claw, which is basically a guild of assassins. And they come after us a few times. We gotta deal with them several times throughout the run. What's going on right now, though, story-wise, is we are currently one of the captain of the Knights of the Empire, who is the main character's best friend, has realized that we ran off with the princess, who, to be clear, at this point in the actual lore, we don't know she's a princess. But he's talking with her privately at the end, and we were encouraged to go explore, which in this situation means go activate a couple triggers and then come back, so we can, you know, continue ahead. But now we're going to go into the inn, and it's like, hey, should we go in and bug them? And we're like, yeah, their privacy means nothing. And we're not even gonna knock. We're just gonna go straight on in. Like, sup, guys? And then we're gonna leave. This area is one of the more egregious examples of going back and forth over the same thing. We have to cross this bridge a total of 7 times during the speedrun, which is a bit much, if you want my honest opinion. We're on, this is our 3rd time going across it now. If you count there and back, at least. But we gotta come up here, find out we can't go into the manor. And then we go back across the bridge for a 4th time. Fantastic. Maybe it's 6 times you cross this bridge. Either way, it's too many. Then we're going to leave the town, and we're going to go fight the next boss, which is actually on the world map, weirdly enough. And what's going on here is the magistrate of the town, Kefka North, is very corrupt and taxes the citizens to the point of poverty. And he has released a monster and said that if anybody can get this monster's horn, he'll just forgive all of their debt. So we are going to go naturally destroy this thing and, you know, give it to the people. And we'll just go, boop, and there he goes. Lovely. So we got the golden horn, and we're just going to head right back into the town. Things start to, like, really pick up in terms of pathing and what all is going on once we get our boat. It's going to be a bit before we do that, though. But if you can't tell, we are about to, at the very least, go onto a new continent and start checking out some different places. So we just gave the golden horn to a family that really needed help. Then we go in here and we got to talk to Flynn for a moment, who tells us that he would like to arrest the magistrate, but the magistrate won't let him in without a warrant. Well, we don't need a warrant, and we're criminals in this game, which is a running joke in my chat, at least. So we're just going to go break into this guy's house. and specifically, we're going there to give a reason so that the knights can come in without a warrant. So our goal in going is to just literally start a fire and start chaos so that they can just bust in to keep the peace. Like, I'm not even joking. That's literally what's going on. It's pretty great. Like, our party is basically just a team of crazed vigilantes. Lovely. The story's pretty edgy, all things considered. So coming into here, this is Rigaud's Manor. We are in the basement of the manor, and it's honestly one of the more meh kind of areas in the game, but we do got to get in some fights. You can see here that I had to run it. Ooh, I got a back encounter. That's unusual. Whatever. Doesn't matter that much. We win.
Yeah.
But you can see there that we were able to pick up a key from that, and we were able to get into the encounter despite having a holy bottle active, which is pretty cool. But now that we got a key, we're going to go up here. We're going to go through this door, unlock another door, and then get another key. Most dungeons are a bit more involved in terms of what you got to do, but this one's kind of just go through door, fight thing, get key, come back. I really like these enemy configurations I'm getting as well. We had a pretty cool layout there with just 2 wolves. Sometimes you can get unlucky and have like 3, and there'll be 1 off to the distance. And we gotta, either lose time or count on repeat to go attack it. But one subtle time save I'm implementing here, which it'll become more apparent when I have a proper door I can open to go through to explain it, is once you go through a door, you'll notice how Yuri took a couple steps after I pressed the confirm button. I'll show you again here. So he steps to the side and then opens the door. If you open the door on the proper side to begin with, that little, couple steps of animation won't happen. And over the course of a 3-hour speedrun, if you optimally open every door, you'll save a decent amount of time. So one thing that I've been trying to implement is memorizing which side of every door to open, which pretty cursed time save in a speedrun. If I'm being real, it's been interesting. And sometimes it's not where it looks like it'll be. See, like that door there, the actual door knob was on the model on the right side, but Yuri opened it on the left, so it's not always very obvious. We're just about done with this dungeon, though, and we'll be getting on to the next boss, Zagi 2. AKA the second time we fight Zagi of 5. And, yeah. Coming in here, though, we gotta fight one more dude for a key.
Oh, man. All right. Yeah!
We're getting some pretty good battle luck in this run, actually, in terms of what the enemies are doing. Sometimes they'll just, charge and get out of the range of my Douse Blast. Other times they'll just, not. You can just destroy them all really quickly. We're getting pretty lucky with it, which we love to see that. We love to see some good luck. I'm notorious for having really bad marathon luck and stuff, so getting some pretty good luck so far. I shouldn't have said that though, because now something really weird will inevitably happen. Yeah, look at that, all 4 at once. You love to see it. But this is the end of this little dungeon, thank goodness. Isn't it awful? It's just not a very good dungeon. There is one later that's way worse. But we're not to that quite yet. So anyway, what's happened here is Rigaud is trying to get away on one of his large boats. Essentially yachts. And we're not going to let him do that. So we've jumped up onto the boat, we've boarded it, and we're just going to attack all of his goons. So first things first, we take out the goons. Is Repeat. Oh, nice.
Are these guys connected to the
Repeat
blast
got a
up here
kill.
too?
You love to see it. Good doggo. And then we fight Zoggy too. And by fight, I mean we go, whee! And we win.
Trust me.
It's so
I
great.
will. Don't let me see you again.
But after this, since we were already on a boat, we end up abandoning ship, and the knights come to save us because they now have a grounds to arrest Rigo, the corrupt magistrate. But unfortunately, he's corrupt and he's rich, so he's gonna, you know, play the money card and not really get into any trouble, which is what we're about to see coming up here. Well, we're not gonna see it. I'm gonna skip the cutscene, but that's what happens. You'll at least get to see what Rigo looks like for half a second, though. Right there. He's that weird-looking dude. Kind of looks like a religious figure of some sort. We gotta talk to this guy here. This is Raven. Very important character in the game. And one of our eventual party members. And then we leave the other port town of Hakam Noir. It's it's a meh town. We end up there one other time in the run. But now we're officially on a new continent. And on this continent there's quite a few very important places. In particular, a city that we're going to be getting to in about 10 minutes. Maybe a little longer. First we got to go into this area here, which is where we'll be seeing our first enemy manip. It could go well, it could go horribly. We'll see. Sometimes it gets a little hairy. Worst case scenario, we have an extra encounter to deal with. Best case scenario, we don't. But starting off, we got to sort of start activating some of the various puzzles and traps in this, you know, place. Starting off with this, where we just shoot it with our ring, and it turns on some of the magic devices that exist in this abandoned town. In my opinion, this town here in particular is also excuse me, is also where things start to get a little bit weird in the speedrun. For the most part, everything's just been fight, triggers. This is where you gotta start getting a little bit more familiar with some of the
What sort of
unusual mechanics. Coming up though is our first dark bottle manip. What we're going to do is we're going to get pretty close to these two enemies here, and we're going to use the dark bottle. And we're going to use a holy bottle, and our goal, if I did it correctly, and I did, is that big turtle guy would take one step forward, just enough for us to be able to squeeze by him without getting into a fight, which we pulled it off really well. So GG to that. And then coming up here is going to be our second fight with Solo Repeat, actually. So we're going to go ahead and, before we even move, we're going to be taking Yuri out of the party. Take a step forward, take a step back, get in a fight. And what this fight is normally designed to teach you is how to use final strikes. We don't need to know how to use them. So we just do the fight with Repeat to skip all the dialogue and such where the game explains. Now, I'm not even going to bother putting Yuri back into the party after this because we don't need to. The game sort of auto-fills that for us through a variety of story circumstances. Then we're going to come into probably the best loading zone in the game. Shoutouts to PD, my good friend. We like this loading zone. They're like, Kefka, what's so special about this? You're just going on a spiral staircase. Yep. Indeed. That is indeed what we are doing. But then we got to do a little puzzle here. And what this typically is you find a couple of notes scattered around the town we were in that tell you what the solution is. We already know the solution, because we're speedrunners. The solution is sun, by the way. So we spell out sun, and then we get to fight our first Intellicaea, which is sort of a... this creature is sentient and kind of like a old ancient, if you will. This fight, unfortunately, the thing's already dead. I can't stress that enough. Or rather, we've already defeated it. But this fight is scripted in that we have to just wait for our party to fill in. And then once Rita arrives, we can finish the fight.
Sorry.
Yep, now that Rita's here, it only has 1 health left. Phew, we win.
That monster was huge.
Hey, what's with the kid?
That's the only fight like that in the game, where we actually have to just sort of wait for things to happen. That's pretty cool. Here's the best part. We get to go back up the spiral staircase. I added it up. You spend roughly 40 seconds on the staircase in this run, which is pretty funny. So coming out here, we gotta hop on down, and then we're gonna get arrested again. You get arrested a few times in this game. Now we're gonna get arrested by the knights, though, because we have the princess with us, and this is the point in the game where it is revealed that she is indeed the princess. But luckily they let us go because she explains that she voluntarily came with us. We have not kidnapped her or anything like that. And this is the town of Heliord, which is sort of a empire base, but, you know, on the other continent. Like, it's just almost like a military sort of town. Then we get the only battle tutorial in the game that we can't skip, where we learn how to use burst arts.
The burst. You don't know. I say. Maybe it. Go. I say. What? And now I'll blow you away.
So we gotta go over limit, which is allows you to just spam your art attacks. But for this battle, it's more so teaching us how to use burst arts. We're not even really going to be seeing any over limit in the rest of the game unless an enemy uses it. But, you know, we win that fight instantly with Douse Blast.
Yeah.
And I believe, if I recall correctly, that is the last time we'll be seeing those two dudes in the speedrun, at least in a battle. One thing I learned very quickly when playing JRPGs, and I've played many, is when in doubt, go to bed. You can't figure out how to proceed, go sleep at an inn. That'll usually get the job done. So now that Estelle has rejoined our party, we gotta go talk to Flynn, the captain of the Knights, who is in here. And what's going on now is every major town in this game is protected by something called a Blastia. And a Blastia is sort of like a magic barrier that keeps monsters from coming into the town. And the Blastia in this town went a little haywire, but Estelle, being a powerful person, we'll just say for now, no spoilers, I suppose, fixed it herself, and it made her very weak. Anyway, we come back over here, and Flynn, the captain of the Knights, and our main character's best friend, has decided to just simply let Estelle continue her journey with us. And we leave Heliord for the first time. We will be coming back there later to fight a boss. Not too much later, actually. About 30 minutes from now or so. You know, I also wanted to say big thanks. Lol. Big thanks to InstaSpeedathon for let me run this. This is the longest speedrun I have done in a marathon by a landslide. I've always wanted to try and marathon out a really long speedrun, and this is a cool experience. Normally I'm having to run games that are so short that I don't really get time to explain that much about them. You just kind of have to play it and say what you can. So it's really cool to be able to do something like this in a marathon and really get in all the details. That fight went insanely well, actually. That's really crazy what just happened there. It's kind of hard to explain how it went well, but it did. Sometimes Repeat won't miss that bug with that configuration, but just shy of the mark there. Just a little. We come over here, and like before, as I mentioned, every town has a Blastia, or at least every big town, including this one. And the Blastias went haywire here, why there were monsters. And it turns out it's these assassin dudes. Oh no, they're doing weird stuff.
How could they do that?
So we're just going to go ahead and wipe them out. And everything's back to normal. Now, we're in this town. This is the city of Dongrist. We'll be coming here quite a few times. This is the guild capital. And the guilds are kind of like the government outside of the empire. And we've come here to see a man who's the leader of all the guilds. A guy by the name of Don Whitehorse. Crazy name. But it turns out Don Whitehorse is in a forest nearby taking care of some business. So rather than wait, we're just going to go to the forest and look for him naturally. Don's a pretty interesting character. He's sort of made out to be kind of like this perfect person. Like an old wise fighter, kind general sort of type. Let's see how good my memory retention is for things in this game. My holy bottle should be running out pretty soon. Probably right as we're... Yep. Ran out a little earlier than what I would have preferred, but we're alright. But yeah, this is Cave Mock, one of about 3 forest areas in the game. And luckily we only have to ever have to come to this one once. Which, I don't know, it's actually maybe my favorite of the 3. Egathor Forest is kind of lame, and the first forest you spend too much time in. We have to pass through it 3 times, which is a little overkill, in my opinion. But working our way through here, we're going to be coming up to the boss of this area, which I forget its technical name. It's essentially just a giant scorpion. By the way, that glowing thing to my right there, that's a save point. We're not even really going to be bothering with those. Except for at one point later in the run. Bam. So there goes that boss. Bosses are going to start getting a little more involved in about 20 minutes or so. Now, most of them will still go by really fast. But I'll have to be a bit more selective about when I attack and which attacks I use. But for now, we're still so OP that everything is just, you know, falling over. Although there is a second boss in Cave Mock coming up. We actually do a sort of exhibition fight with Don Whitehorse. Now, this is the only fight in the game that you are allowed to lose and the game will still progress. But we're so OP that, spoiler alert, we're not going to lose. Bam, we win. So there goes Don.
Are you some kind of monster, old man?
And then we leave Cave Mock. And we're going to go back to Dongrist and have a meeting with the Don. We're working our way up the street here. We'll be coming up and down this street quite a few times in the run. Not too many. compared to other areas, but still more than I would prefer. But we can finally now go into the Capitol building of Dongress here, and we're going to have a meeting with the Don. And what happens in this meeting is Flynn, the captain of the Knights, he gets thrown in jail because he has been sort of framed by the Empire as trying to assassinate various high-ranking guild members. So the Don throws him in jail. But see, Flynn is our buddy. He's our buddy on the inside, and we can't just leave him hanging. So we're gonna go bust him out. So we'll walk down that street, back up the street, down the street, back up. Good stuff. We're going to come down here and we're going to let Flynn out of jail. And in the process of letting Flynn out of jail, we get put in jail for the third time in the speedrun. We're not even a third of the way done. We've been arrested 3 times. We're on a roll, dude. We're living that underground criminal life. But we get let out of jail, obviously, because we're not in jail anymore. And we specifically got let out of jail by Don Whitehorse, who explains to us that he wants us to figure out what's actually going on in this whole situation. He realizes that Flynn has been framed, and wants us to sort of be a covert kind of individual and figure out what the real meat and potatoes of the whole situation is. So we go to the bar, as you do when you're investigating anything. Okay? And Raven joins our party, who is a pretty interesting character, all things considered. And we're in our obligatory sewer level. Now, this area casually is awful. I mean, it's just absolutely terrible. What makes it so terrible is you have this light on you, and when the light goes out, all these enemies start swarming you. Now, it's not a big deal for us because we got enough holy bottles to, or whatever. This area can also be a little bit frustrating starting off. It's pretty easy to get lost in. But we've already made our way through. And then we're going to be getting into the sort of ending of Act 1 of the game. Kind of the 1/3 marker in the run or so. We got a few cutscenes to skip. We do leave our whole party, though. Because this dragon warrior, like a person flying on a dragon, comes and takes us to a nearby military village, like their base, and we have infiltrated it, but without our main party. Interesting.
That was easy.
Fun fact, that fight there is one of the hardest things to do on the highest difficulty. Also, welcome in 7th. Nice to see you, my friend. Now Judith has joined our party, who is the character with the barely there black bikini. Now, we can officially turn on that incentive at any point if it is met. It is worth noting, though, that we won't get too good of a look at it until a little bit later in the run, about the 90-minute mark or so, which is the hour-and-a-half mark for those of you who are bad at math like myself. But welcome to, you know what? Hold on. I'm gonna go off script for a moment. 7th, you always show up in my streams when I'm in this dungeon. It never fails, and yet here you are, and we're in this dungeon. All right, I'm good now. Like, there's 3 hours of speedrun. This takes up like 8 minutes of it, and you just always show up here. Anyway, this dungeon sucks. It's, in my opinion, the worst dungeon in the game. Not, I'm not going to do that yet. Not because it's hard or anything like that. It's just sort of long and tedious. Like, there's just a lot of really drab puzzle work in it, honestly. I did discover recently, though, a small time save here, where you can shoot that here to the right there early. If you go too close to it, you do get a cutscene triggered. So, pretty cool little thing to find. And to answer your question, 7th, no, there have not been any enemy bridges yet. I wasn't able to skip that one encounter in the sewer, which that's pretty normal. I would argue skipping it is rarer than not. But yeah, I also missed the tutorial at the beginning. Like I said, yes. So that was interesting. So yeah, the theme for this dungeon is you're just shooting various gears to activate access to more gears. And we're trying to just sort of get the power to go up through this tube, which you'll see here. You know, it shoots up kind of one tier, and then this next gear down here opens, and we can go continue to get this power stream flowing up through the dungeon. In my opinion, there's really like 3 dungeons in the game that sort of overdo it with the tedium, but this one is the most egregious example of that, for sure. Also, not yet. I was gonna ask for a time check on my run, but not quite yet. I want to wait till I get defeat the boss for this area. That'll give me a pretty good idea of what we're looking at here.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just sort of writing a thing as well, obviously, about the Bury Their Black Bikini incentive, so don't forget, anyone who does want to donate to that, you can do so. I'll post the link in the chat momentarily, and anyone who wants to donate to that incentive, please do so that we can see, or for lack of a better term, not see, the Bury Their Black Bikini.
So continuing to work our way through this dungeon, we are just about finished with it, actually. This 3rd floor here with all this stuff is probably the most irritating because we gotta just go up and down these stairs. But it is what it is. It's interesting. This is one of those dungeons. I don't have this memorized, but it luckily gives you cutscenes. It shows you where to go. So I don't know. I never mind. I would say I'm starting to kind of really get the pathing down under my brain here. But because this dungeon's so long, it's pretty easy to mentally check out. And if you don't see like which little paths have opened up and stuff, you can get turned around pretty easy. I think in my very first PB, I got lost for about 15 seconds because I was like, wait, which gate opened? Because it all just looks so similar, you know? Yeah, we're real close to the end of this dungeon and Act 1 of the game. Act 2 is probably my favorite in the game, for sure, if I had to pick one as well, so looking forward to that. The beginning of it is pretty meh, but it really starts to get exciting. Act 3 is kind of just wrapping up the game, more so than anything. Okay, so our holy bottle ran out right on cue. That's nice. Sometimes the perspective makes aiming this sorcerer's ring a little bit tricky. And we're finally done with the bulk of this dungeon and its quote-unquote puzzles. All we gotta do is just go up these stairs. Then we're going to ride an elevator over here to the left, and we get to fight the boss. This boss is pretty weird. He starts off by sending in a bunch of mobs. Now, you can actually deactivate these bridges so that the mobs can't continue, but it's faster to just not even bother. And just sort of work our way through everybody. Like so.
Yeah.
If I could get a pace check, that would be great.
Current timer is on, well, just past 1 hour, so about 1 hour, 1 minute-ish.
Alright, cool, yeah, we're doing pretty good. Most excellent. So now we have come back to Dongris. We have defeated a corrupt military leader. And Rigaud has now officially been arrested, which is the magistrate who is providing funds to that corrupt leader. And here's where it gets interesting. We know he's arrested. We know where he's being held. So we just assassinate him, which is, you know, our main character is kind of brutal. He just really does not care to do the deed, so to speak. This is just the Yuri things. That's right. So at this point, we are leaving Dongris for a while. We don't really come back here for a bit. Now let's see if we get a bridge encounter here. Now a bridge encounter is the enemies that spawn on the overworld map are somewhat random. They'll usually be near you, but sometimes they can spawn directly on the center of these little bridges, forcing an encounter, which is obviously not a good thing for a speedrun, and it's just completely luck-based. There's only like 5 or 6 bridges in the game, so it's not like a complete pace killer or something. I mean, it would be if every single bridge did that, but I've not seen that happen before. Now that I've said something, I'll definitely see that happen at some point in the future. So now we're going back to Heliord, which is that sort of a military encampment city from earlier in the game. This will be the final time we come here. We gotta more or less clean it out. For lack of a better term, this place is kind of like a slave labor camp, where the people who live here that aren't military are just forced to do labor and stuff for the Empire. So we're gonna clean that up and make sure that's not going on. But first, we got to go talk to Judith. Now, Judith is the character who can wear the barely there black bikini, just to mention. And I'll just let you get a good look at her. Okay, so pretty cool thing to see. Coming over here, though, we take a look at the statue, which, again, is the Blastia that we fixed a little bit earlier in the run. To make sure it's still doing good. Then we decide to talk to this guard to see what's going on. Uh-oh. I think I picked Estelle for that, just not paying attention. We'll find out, I suppose. I did. That's fun. Not a big deal. Normally I like to pick Judith for this. What's going on is we're seducing this guard to make the guard go away. It saves like 2 seconds to pick Judith. Not a huge deal though. And now we have dressed up in knight's clothing ourselves to infiltrate the knight's base, which turns out to be one of the shortest little things in the game. And then we're going to go down into the actual labor camp, and we're going to take out the big bad that's in charge of this, who is a man named Jaeger. And by take out, I mean we're just going to kind of chase him off. We are going to fight him again later, for real, and finish him off. Lucky for us, Jaeger's not too tough. We just use a good old final gale, and slap, there he goes. He's already fallen over. There is 1 enemy left, though. We'll see if Rapide gets it. Oh, 2 enemies. That's pretty rare. Interesting. Usually that final gale will hit the one of the other dudes there, but it just didn't happen for whatever reason. Little thing. And now we're going to work our way back to Hakum War, or the other port city, so that we could charter a boat to go to yet another new continent, which is probably my favorite continent if I had to pick one. I don't know. I just like what it's got going on. You know, it's your obligatory desert area and all that good stuff. Normally, I hate desert areas, and I kind of hate this one too. But it's, I don't know, something about it's just not as bothersome to me for whatever reason. Anyway, we come into Takum Noor and we go to bed. Like I said, when you're playing a JRPG, when in doubt, if you're lost and can't figure out how to continue, just go to bed. Like, in the game, I mean. I mean, you could just go to sleep as well, like, physically yourself. But I don't think that'll help you progress in your game necessarily. So this area here, everybody's kind of split up and thinking about what we're going to do once we charter a boat and, you know, what the mission is. And we just got to go talk to everybody and see how they're feeling. Well, not everybody. It's really weird. In every other instance where this happens, and it'll happen a few times, you have to talk to every single character. But for some reason, at this part, you talk to every character other than Rapide. We can talk to Rapide, but we don't have to talk to Rapide, which is kind of interesting. The whole world really starts to open up when we get our airship. And by airship, I mean, I'll just let y'all wait and see what I mean. Sort of a running theme with Judith is she usually tries to leave town at night. And we just, you know, bump into her as she's walking back in. That's kind of a thing that happens a few times. Alright. Now we're going to go get our boat. And head to the next continent. The southern sort of continent. Which has your Colosseum area, your desert, your cave. All your JRPG things. We come down here, and she tells us that she does have a boat for us, but she needs help being escorted across the ocean, and agrees to give us the boat if we can get her across the ocean safely. Which, you know, means that shenanigans are naturally bound to ensue. So we're going to drift forward for just a moment. And then we're going to get attacked by mermen, which is this game's way of saying weird shark people. Apparently. Wow, that was maybe the best I've ever seen that fight go. Normally Rapide just doesn't do the right thing, but that was pretty nice. We're going to continue into the ocean, right out into the middle. Luckily there's no sea monsters in this game, because I am deathly afraid of massive creatures in the water. Fun fact. Always really scared me, that sort of stuff. I remember I was playing Wind Waker and as a kid, and the first time I saw a big octo, even though they're essentially harmless, I literally screamed, cried, and then just turned off the console. I didn't even save. I was like, no, I can't even look at that. Like, it just drove me insane. Anyway, here we are on the ghost ship. Every good game that you know, has a party and a stat system has a ghost ship in it somewhere. Just about. Maybe not all of them, but pretty common trope. Luckily for us, the ghost ship is very short. One of the shortest sort of dungeons or areas in the whole game. We are going to come back here, though, in the last, like, 15 minutes of the run randomly. You take, you know, sort of take out one final little thing. So then we're playing as a second party here. We're going to be playing as Carol. We're not going to be doing any fighting with this team. Thank God. Because it would be pretty awful. But we do have to go into the back of the ghost ship in a different direction to help out the main team. And as such, we're playing as Carol, who I have graciously put in a frog suit with a fedora. So yeah, coming around here, we're going to go in the back. And we're just going to work our way on through the ghost ship. Very simple dungeon. Like, as far as like learning to run the game, this dungeon might be literally like the fastest one in the game to just pick up and learn, because you just go in a straight line for most of it. Coming up here though, we got a cutscene. We're going to examine this little treasure box. Then we're going to fight a boss who we're just going to go whee, and he's dead. Lovely. And this finishes off the ghost ship, and we're going to be able to continue crossing the ocean. Working our way over here. For some reason, Carol has a ladder on each person. And I've always wondered, like, why we could have probably used this ladder earlier in the game. But then I also realized to myself, pretty ironic that Carol has a ladder that looks like that second ladder there. But then it gets even weirder because Carol's just like, oh yeah, I have a second ladder. Carol's just like carrying around ladders that ironically match the aesthetic of the ghost ship. I mean, I'm not trying to shame Carol for his hobbies, but pretty weird. Pretty strange indeed. And we're going to head over here to Nordopolica. How's that for a word? Nordopolica is your cliched Colosseum city sort of thing that tends to exist in every, maybe not every, but more than 80% of every RPG ever. There's like some sort of place you can go and just fight, you know, onslaughts of enemies. This staircase here, I hope you like it, because we'll be seeing it a few times. Kind of like that bridge in that earlier town. It just exists, and you got to cross it a few times. But we're here in Nordopolica because there's another very powerful guild leader here, good friends with Don Whitehorse from earlier in the run, by the name of Bellius, the Duce. And Bellius is kind of special in that she refuses to meet with us unless it is the night of a full moon. So it's not a night of a full moon. Night of a full moon's quite a bit away, so we're told to come back much later. So we're like, I don't know what to do. We'll just go to bed. So Raven left the party because Raven was mad. Raven wanted to meet with Bellius, but Raven's not there. We're like, well, where did Raven go? Well, as it turns out, we don't know, but that doesn't really matter. Instead, we're going to go run down some more stairs. It's so funny because, like, you want to talk about all the lore, but, like, there's, like, 40 hours of cutscenes in this game. You can't go over all this lore in 3 hours. But, so you just make up your own lore as you go. It's like we're getting in our cardio, then we're going to bed. Yeah, we're going back to the inn here. Only this time, Raven is at the inn, so we go to bed. And you can see there, he rejoined the party. And then we're ready to leave. We're just going to leave, and we're going to go explore the continent. There are some other reasons we've come to this continent. More specifically, we've come here to seek out a creature by the name of Pharaoh, who knows a little bit more about the princess's mysterious powers. So we're going to head to the desert now and see if we can find him, except we get stopped by a dude whose name is Brigay. who explains to us that he needs our help and he wants us to meet him back at the Coliseum. So we're going to run back up these stairs again. And don't worry, I know it's sad. It's like, oh man, this is the last time we're going to see the stairs, Kefka. It's not. I promise, we'll see them again. I know we all really love that staircase. I know I do. So we come in here, we talk to Reggae. Reggae tells us he needs us to fight in the Coliseum. So, you know, we're gonna have our little how seventh worded it, the tournament art. It's just 5 fights. First fight's pretty simple.
I guess that was an okay warm up. For our second.
Get the cutscenes in between. Second fight, bam, also simple.
No way. That was too easy.
And then it's like, just in case you really didn't know, we're gonna send generic soldier number 48.
I'm taking you down.
And we're like, yep, get out of
You can
here.
do better than that?
It's like, well, but what if I made you fight your best friend? And then we do. We fight Flynn for one of 2 times in the game. Now, Flynn is... A lot of people really like Flynn. I personally don't. I find Flynn to be a very generic, sort of just knight character. But luckily for Flynn, we are interrupted by Zoggy for Zoggy 3. Now, Zoggy 3 is really hard. Not. Zoggy's already gone. Now, the 4th time we fight Zoggy, though, is pretty funny. Something pretty interesting happens. Anyhow, after we beat Zoggy, the Blastia in this city goes corrupt, and the whole area gets raided with monsters. We gotta fight 2 little scripted encounters here, just to progress. And we got really insanely good RNG there. Just single enemy group encounters. Pretty rare. I've only seen that like twice, maybe. But after that, we gotta leave the city. And we're gonna continue our mission out into the desert. Turns out Reggae did all of that to distract us so that he could still... we had a treasure box on us. And that we got off the ghost ship, and Reggae wanted it. Reggae stole it, and then he ran off, so we're chasing after him. Actually, Rapide, the doggo, went after him before we did, as well. So we're following our dog, who is following Reggae. But Rapide unfortunately lost sight of him and meets us at the gates. Now we get to go to the cave, the one cave. There's kind of 2 cave areas, but one of them's a bit more proper, which is what we're going to now. It has maybe one of the weirdest names for a cave I've ever heard in a game. The Weezand of Kados. Like, alright. Alright, developers. Okay. Pretty creative name you got going on there. But we're going to go ahead and make our way into the Weezand of Kados here. Which, pretty cool area. We'll be seeing it twice, including this visit here. Starts off pretty simple enough. Gonna fight some of the assassin guild here.
That's what.
And then we're just gonna work our way through. Now, this area has a pretty interesting enemy encounter in it. In that the enemy is just on this tiny little like land bridge thing, and you can't avoid it. There's a couple ways around it. On the way there, we're just gonna fight it and get it out of the way. We're gonna do that on the way back when we come back through, as well, a little bit later. But we're gonna be implementing a little, I don't know, kind of tech, so to speak, on our way back through. So we'll see Reggae here across this gap. He's like, "Hi, you can't get me. There's water in the way," and we're just like, "Reggae, buddy, we can walk in water, like."
Hold still.
Excellent. Really good RNG there. Sometimes that particular enemy we've got a 50-50 shot of it being like 4 things or just a bear. We got lucky and it was just a bear. It was pretty cool. And coming up here, we're gonna fight the boss of this area. which turns out to be a bunch of bats fused together into some kind of amorphous blob. One final gale takes it out, nice and swiftly, though. And finally, you can look through that cave exit up there and see the desert. We have finally made it to our actual destination on this continent, other than trying to talk to Bellius. And we're going to be coming into the desert town of Montauk. And everybody leaves the party, and we got to do that thing where we walk around and we talk to everyone. It's interesting. These sections where you have to like talk to all the characters are weirdly some of my favorite parts of the speedrun. You wouldn't think so, because it's like you're not fighting, you're not like going anywhere interesting, but like pathing them out and like trying to do it optimally is just interesting. Sometimes it's the little things in speedruns that are, I don't know, engaging for the runner at the very least. By the way, this is Patty. I forgot to mention Patty. Patty is one of the Definitive Edition exclusive characters. Some people really like Patty. I'm not one of them. I find Patty to be quite annoying. She's pretty prone for leaving and rejoining the party a lot. On top of that, I just find her character to be vaguely annoying. So everybody rejoins. And then we go to bed. You know, this is an RPG. We just sleep constantly. And then we're ready to leave the desert town and go into the actual desert. Now, the desert itself is about what you'd expect. It's a desert. But it has this weird mechanic tied to it where you can dehydrate and die. That luckily for us isn't going to impact us in the slightest, because I just go so fast that we never even come close to it actually mattering in the slightest. But the desert does have a couple other unique features. The biggest being that these enemies spawn randomly. Now, they're always going to spawn like somewhere within your visual vicinity. The other thing the desert has, which is unique, is this cutscene here, where it explains how to refill your canteen so you don't dehydrate. And you can't skip this cutscene. Again, there's very few unskippable cutscenes in this game, but this is indeed one of them. Pretty bad luck there. Those two guys spawned right in front of us. What we really hope to see is that we can just hold a nice straight, true path here, and nothing will really spawn directly in front of us. That's okay. We do need to make our way slightly right. Not quite that far right. Alright, yeah, we're good. During my first PB, I got lost in the desert. There's very few landmarks to use in terms of pathing, so yeah. Also, that blue meter on the right side of the screen is the hydration meter for this area. Which, as I said before, doesn't even come into play. You can see it was only like maybe a fourth of the way drained before we got to the next area, and it just reset itself. And this is the last area of the desert as well. Unfortunately, though, we won't be coming back here during the run, so, well, we sort of will, but not exactly. So once you get up here, we find Patty, and she joins the party again. And we're going to go around this little mesa here, plateau, whatever you want to call it. And we're just going to continue forward until eventually we get to this trigger here. And we find two town folk from Mantake who are thirsting to death. We give them some water and decide to take them with us. And then we get to fight the boss of the desert, who is technically an apparition, but plays a much larger role later in the game.
That didn't work.
They are what's called an autophagos, which is a pretty crazy word all in of itself. The autophagos are, in all honesty, the actual main villain of the game, but we don't find that out for quite a while. And they're basically these eldritch space creatures that live outside of the world and want to kill us. They're not quite aliens, but they're meant to be pretty alien-like, I would argue. So here in this town, we brought that treasure box that we got on the ghost ship to that lady there. And we're going to go into this house here, and we're going to meet a very important character named Duke. Now, Duke is pretty important in the story and in the speedrun. You'll understand why a bit more later. But this is the first time that we really talk to Duke. We do see him a couple times earlier in the run, which, again, I've been skipping cutscenes, so didn't really get a good look at him. But that's the first time in the story where the characters really sit down and speak with Duke and understand a bit more about what's actually going on behind the scenes in this world. But we're already ready to leave this town. So say goodbye to Jormungand, the other desert town. And this pretty much marks roughly the halfway point in the speedrun. We do have to pass back through the desert, except for we don't. It just lets you stay on the field, so I go, what in the... Oh, no!
Hold still. I'll make this quick.
It's okay. Really bad RNG there, really weird, but whatever. One little extra encounter. Not the worst thing in the world, but I've never seen stuff pop up like that. That was really strange. Anyway, continue back across the desert because, you know, it's apparently we don't care about hydration on the way back. And we're going back into the other desert town of Mantate. When we get here, it turns out the Empire has rolled in, the evil Empire, and they are terrorizing the town folk. And we don't like that. So, in natural Yuri fashion, we're just gonna go to bed. We're gonna go to bed about it. Then when everybody's sleeping, including this corrupt military dude who you'll see for a second here, right there, and right here, we're just gonna assassinate him. No big deal. We're just going on a journey across the world, just, you know, just murdering people, apparently. We come and talk to Flynn, who's like, "Hey, where are all these official people going to? Why are all these officials getting killed?" Flynn, our best friend, again, our kind of the friend on the inside of the system, doesn't really know that we're the person doing all this stuff yet. He suspects it, but he's not sure. So that's a confrontation that is indeed building up. It is coming to a boil. So we got to go back through the Wizened of Kados. And there's going to be one little interesting kind of manip that we do here. Not a manip per se, more so just a small optimization. So we're going to come up to this horse thing here. We're actually going to... when did I pick up an item? What happened? Okay, anyway, we're going to be using a dark bottle to trigger this encounter sooner. And the reason for that is I need to reuse a holy bottle anyway by the time we get back to where we're trying to get to on the other side of this cave. So it just makes sense to go ahead and use one there so that we can re-up our holy bottle. I wish I could figure out what happened with my items. I've not seen that before. Interesting. Yeah, my holy bottles normally don't move in my inventory. Unless you pick up something that makes them move. That's one of the perks of New Game Plus is you can sort of, you know, fill out your inventory in such a way that all your items get set in set positions. So I must have got an item drop somewhere that shoved everything forward in my inventory. I don't really know where. It might have been that extra encounter in the desert that I got, that I just got bad luck with. I'm going to figure that's probably what it was. Not a huge deal, though, at all. Anyway, at this point, we're going back to Nordopolica because it is near the night of the full moon, meaning we can go talk to Belius finally. So we're going to go back up the stairs, just in case you thought we weren't going to see them anymore. Here they are in all their glory. Look at them. Wood, concrete, coming together in a marvelous, cohesive coalescence. But before we do anything, we're going to go to bed about it. By go to bed, I mean that's how you advance the trigger, of course. That's a very common thing. So common, to me, it's funny. Like, oh man, where do I go? Well, let's just go to bed. But it is now the night of the full moon, and we're going to go talk and meet Belius. Now, this is where the game reveals something that I alluded to a little bit earlier. Belius is not what you would expect. Now, Belius is a guild leader, and the guild are meant to sort of be kind of like the mafia in this game, but like that doesn't necessarily mean like bad. And yeah, so we meet Belius, which I skipped all the cutscenes there. We didn't get to see him, but it turns out Belius isn't even human. Belius is essentially a monster. Not exactly a monster. A creature called an Intellicaea, which is this really ancient sentient creature. The Intellicaea are pretty divided. There's not very many of them left. They're very endangered because they're extremely powerful and they've been hunted for their magical properties. And as it turns out, we showed up just in time for some various folks to be trying to, hurt Belius. But Belius is, a good guy, so we don't want that to happen. But it turns out that they used something on Belius and hurt Belius. And when our white mage tried to heal Belius, caused Belius to go insane. So, we gotta put her down. Yep, there she goes. Rip Belius. It turns out, though, that when an Intellicaea dies, they leave behind something called a Apatheia, which is like a crystal containing their life force, which is why most of them have been hunted to near extinction. Belius leaves the Apatheia crystal left behind from her death with us, and requests that we take it to her good friend, Don Whitehorse. So that is where we're going now. We're going to go deliver the crystal to the Don. But unfortunately, when we get down here, here's that confrontation I mentioned. It came to a boil. Flynn now knows that we are the person who's assassinating all these government officials. Flynn is not okay with it. Because again, Flynn is on the inside of the system. Flynn is one of the captains of the Knights. So we get back on our boat, and we got to do the whole shindig of walking around and talking to all these people. You know, oh, how do you feel about this? Well, how does Doggo feel? That's a wolf. Sounds good, Doggo. How about you, Princess? How you feeling about it? Fighting scary. Sounds great. What about you, Carol? Oh, he's emo. That's pretty usual. What about you, DLC character? Alright, sounds good. So anyway, we skip over those scenes, and then we're going back to Dongris, where Don Whitehorse lives. We're going to be taking the Apatheia crystal left behind by Belius, who, again, is good friends with Don Whitehorse. We're going to be leaving it to him, as per her will and testament. You'll notice there I had the world map pulled up on the screen. The reason for that was so I could take a good solid path across the ocean. Don't do a whole lot of ocean traversal, but I like to make sure that what little we do is nice. Alright, here we go, a bridge. Are we going to get a bridge encounter? Hey, there's still 2 more bridges we got, 3 more bridges we got to cross in the run, so let's see what happens. Anyway, we come into Dongrist, and Carol and Raven decide to go ahead and talk to the Don, and they'll meet us back at the end. We're just gonna, you know, we're gonna do what we do best. We're gonna go to bed.
Yuri, please
Unfortunately,
wake up. Yuri.
things get a little weird. So we're woken up by the princess, who informs us that the Don has went off to confront Leviathan's Claw, the Guild of Assassins, and we need to go help the Don. Again, we like the Don. Don's cool. And then Patty rejoins the party again. That's what Patty does. Pretty wishy-washy. I'm gonna have to figure out what item I got. I keep using the wrong thing in my inventory because my holy bottle shifted. I'm curious to see after this run's over. I'm gonna take a deeper look and figure out what happened. Alright, bridge. We good. Gotta cross that bridge again, and then there's one other bridge quite a bit later in the run that could give us a bridge encounter. We'll see what happens. So we're going to the Leviathan Claw hideout, or Leviathan Claw Manor, as it is called.
Still, I'll make this quick.
And first things first, we're gonna just start mowing through all these thugs. I'm just gonna slaughter all of them. We gotta go save the Don.
Hold still. I'll make this quick.
These fights can get a little bit weird at times. The Leviathan Claw groups tend to have some pretty strange layouts. But this is a very short dungeon. So short, in fact, we're going to be coming to the final fight of it in less than like 10 seconds. By the time I can say, let's go through this door and get to this next encounter by skipping the cutscene, guess what? We're getting in a battle and that's it. We're done with Leviathan Claw Manor. Very easy area. Unfortunately, the crossbow guys didn't want to go forward there. I had to do an extra attack. Not a huge deal, though. We skip that cutscene and we leave. And we're going back to Dongrist because we helped the Don escape. And he told us to meet him back at Dongrist. Does mean, though, that we got to cross this bridge one more time down here. So let's see what happens. Will we get a bridge encounter? Negative. The bridge encounter Mount Timza. We know that Judy has went here. Unfortunately, there are a few fights we can't avoid, like this tree turtle stump thing.
Man, could you
Right
be
in the
any
way.
weaker?
There ain't no way around it.
That's what.
So we just fight our way through it. Powering our way on up Mount Timza. We are going to do another dark bottle manip situation. I could technically manip this in such a way to where I don't get into an encounter. That was weird. That guy's normally out of the way, but I guess we fighting. Sure.
That's what.
It seems that something got a little frozen. I don't think that was on my end. I'm not sure. I hope not. If it was, my apologies.
It's on my end, it is. Don't worry about it. It's the RTMP
Oh,
thing.
okay, I
So
got you.
what happens every now and again? I don't know why it causes it. I think you know the keyframe interval thing I told you about. I think that sort of fixes it with a big asterisk attached to it because it still freezes occasionally, but less frequently than if you just set it to auto.
Okay.
But I had basically lost focus for a few minutes because I was dealing with something on Stripe, and the stream froze. So yeah, it just goes to show that I should put 100% concentration on InstaSpeedathon when I'm hosting these events, because something always likes to happen when I don't.
All right.
But yeah, carry on.
All good. I was just wanting to make sure that something wasn't going weird on my end, you know. So cool. So we finally have Judith back in our party, and we just have to put her in our party for this fight, which doesn't really mean anything. She's not in the fight regardless, so that's fun. We have to fight these guys here. These are the hunting blades. They have come here to hunt a friend of Judy's, who we are going to go meet here in just a second. A friend by the name of Baul, who turns out to be one of the last remaining Intellicaea. Now, Baul is unfortunately kind of dying, but by dying, it really means evolving. Sort of like a Pokemon almost. But Judy's tired, so we're going to let her rest. And in the meantime, we're going to just run around the boat, talk to everybody again. Be like, how you doing, Mr. Trenchcoat Man? How about you, DLC character? Doing good? Good. We're going to walk over here. We're going to talk to Carol, who is sitting down sulking like he usually is. Cool. Sounds good, Carol. We're going to go downstairs. We're going to check on Rita. And how's Rita? Alright, cool. Rita's doing great. And then we're going to be like, yeah, let's just let Judy sleep. So at this point, Baul has evolved. And what this means for us and the speedrun is we can fly now. Which is, huge, obviously. I would say that it means that we can actually watch Baul fly, but unfortunately, or fortunately for us, you can just kind of warp around the map. It's quicker to not in this one instance, so that's gonna more or less be the only time that you see Baul fly. Rip Baul. Yeah, but once you get Baul, especially on New Game Plus, or rather specifically on New Game Plus, you have the ability to fly to any locations you've been to previously. Since this is indeed New Game Plus, that means we can just fly anywhere. With the exception of a few oddly specific locations. What we're going to do now is we're going to go into our menu and go, whee! Fly to Ospio. Now, unfortunately, we are now at the point in the run where we are going to be playing as Judith. So, if the barely there black bikini hasn't been met, this is the time in which the run in which it would be on full display, rather than just through blips in cutscenes. So we are...
Yeah, it's not met, unfortunately, so...
Well, no barely there black bikini for them, then.
Damn it. You had one job, people, one job.
One
and
job.
You failed.
But to get back to the run, we are now playing as Judith for the next 20 or 30 minutes or so. Technically, I could switch back anytime I want. I only needed to do one thing with Judy, and I already did it. which was talk to a specific character, but it's faster to just not. Every character has the same run speed, so I'm just going to be playing as Judy until... Oh, I forgot to talk to Patty. Dagnabbit, Patty. Okay, anyway, we can just, play as Judy until the game forces us to play as Yuri again. But yeah, Patty is pretty terrible for this stuff. I just was talking and just walked right past her. So, fun little time lost there, but, that's Patty for you. Ruining speedruns for a while now.
Just on a little added note, by the way, if anybody does want the clothes to change at all during... I'm assuming you can change it halfway through.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes, if anybody does want the barely their black bikini to be met, and that we change it for the rest of the run, obviously, then the incentive itself only needs another £40 to be met. So if anyone comes in with a donation like that, that will also be given to EveryoneCan as well, or following the terms as per usual. But yeah, if you go to the donation page, if you type donate in the chat, that'll bring up the donation page link, of course, and you can donate to the incentive that way. It only needs another £40 to be met.
It is also worth mentioning that I will, in the event that it's met later into the run, I'll make sure to just, display it in some way regardless. Even if we're no longer playing as Judy. Not a big deal at all. So anyway, we're now in Renansula Hollow, which has a thing called the Guide Bell to Miorzo. God, there's so many weird words in this game. Which we need in order to get to the city of Miorzo, which is a good old flying city. Every good JRPG has a city that just floats around in the sky. This game is no different. So yeah, Patty left the party again and rejoined again. And then we need to go to Egathor Forest, the last forest area in the game. Well, the last technical forest area. We do go back to the one from the beginning of the game again a little bit later. But yeah, this is the last unique forest location. And in my opinion, one of the more annoying ones as well. So from here, like I said, we can just simply warp places now that we're able to fly. So we're going to be abusing that quite a bit. We're going to warp straight to Egathor Forest. We're just going to go right on in. And we're starting to get pretty deep into the run now. We're not quite near the end, but we're closer to it than what we're not, I suppose. And we're really getting into the nitty gritty.
You'll be gone soon enough. And another.
That is quite possibly the worst luck I have ever seen in that fight. That's up there. But I've never seen both soldiers charge. Ever. That's really bizarre and unusual. But yeah, this forest is being protected by the Empire, who doesn't want people digging around in it, because this is the way to get to Miorzo, and they do not want people getting to Miorzo. And it's mostly because Miorzo is kind of a holy site full of like arcane magic and things of that ilk. And they just don't want the masses to be informed that those things exist. But yeah, we don't care. We're gonna go find out they exist anyway. We're gonna go see what the flying city of elf people have got going on. I did that in my PB as well, where I got stuck in that little patch of grass there for a moment. Interesting. Noted. Oh, okay. Enemy just chilling right at the end of the bridge. You love to see it. So coming up here in just a moment is our final fight with only the dog, which is pretty cool. It's pretty easy too. We gotta fight like 4 enemies. Oh wow, that's really good RNG right there. You win a little, you lose a little. That's one of the, you know, win a little situations. So this area is full of a ton of just random scripted fights. Unfortunately, first we fight that group of soldiers, then we skip a cutscene, and then we fight another group of soldiers, but as Doggo. Luckily, we can just go wee. There goes 1, a 2, a 3. Crunch right to the center of that Tootsie Pop. And we're gonna come around the corner up here. And Rita, our mage, who I mentioned way earlier, is also a researcher.
Hold still.
She's going to focus on deactivating this barrier thing, and we got to hold off all these guards.
That's what.
Which means 3 scripted fights for us. What a joy.
You'll be gone soon enough.
These groups here aren't as bad when it's for lance soldiers. They'll all just charge at you. It's the groups that have 2 lancers and 2 mages that are the most annoying, because the mages
Get ready.
won't, they don't really move. They just start the fight off, immediately casting magic. Usually you'll end up missing 1, kind of like that there. Sometimes it can go catastrophically wrong as well, but that's extremely rare. So yeah, now that we've dealt with all that, we can now go to Miorzo, which is a little weird. There we go. Entering Miorzo is really strange. You got to be like directly under it, or otherwise you'll just lower your ship down into the water. Which is a very silly way to lose time. So I tend to just kind of fidget my way towards it and play it safe. But anyway, here we are at Miorzo. It's a very tiny city. It's really just these 2 loading zones, other than the inside of a couple houses. But we're going to go talk to the village chief, who's going to give us a bit more detailed history about the ancient world that we were unaware of. He's going to explain the Autophagos to us, which is sort of this entity of things that exist in space. We don't know a whole lot about them yet. We just know that they exist, and that they are a potential threat now. That was weird. I got stuck on a pillar. Okay. So Raven leaves the party, and we don't know why, so we're gonna go try to find him. And then, as it turns out, we can't find him. So the village chief says, hey, go ask people in town if they've seen anything, but all you have to do is just go back into town, you just turn straight back around, and the game's like, oh yeah, you went and talked to people, didn't you? We're like, yeah, totally. Then we remember a couple flashbacks of some pretty fishy things Raven said, and we connect the dots that Raven might be a traitor. Which, spoiler alert, Raven's a traitor. Then we come back to Jormungand, the little other desert town, and it's been completely wiped off the map by the Empire, who wanted to come here specifically to, you recall I mentioned earlier we talked to a character here named Duke. They came here to try and assassinate Duke. We don't know why they did that either. We find out, but we don't know yet. Then we get to go to the best dungeon in the game. And I say that very loosely because, man, this dungeon is awful. This is Bactian. Now, I love the music in Bactian. It's maybe my favorite track of the entire game. But Bactian itself, pretty awful. It's not even really, there's no, like, puzzle. Or rather, there is a puzzle. But it's less of a puzzle and more so of a, here's this maze you need to go through. Very recently as like my last PB, I memorized Bactian. But just in case, I actually have my notes for it pulled up. And it's funny, it's the only notes I use. Just Bactian. You'll understand why as we work our way through it. Because it truly is just straight up a maze. It's worth noting that at the moment, Flynn, the captain of the Knights, is also in our party. Well, he's not the captain yet. He does become the captain later. But he is also in our party because there's clearly some corrupt things going on in his government, so he has linked up with us to figure out what's going down. Good old Backton. Beautiful music. Beautiful. Boring dungeon otherwise. We come into this room here, and there's a barrier in the way.
I'll make this quick. This wasn't supposed to
And we gotta fight a few guards. And then Duke shows up. And Duke decides to give us something called Dynamos, which is a very powerful sword. Now, unfortunately, you can never actually, like, use it to fight with, but it's more so what the sword can do outside of battle that's noteworthy. It has the power to manipulate the flow of, like, they call it air in this game, but it's magic, mana, whatever term you want to use. And Duke just decides, you know what? I'm done with this mess, and just gives us the most powerful, like basically the most powerful artifact in the world. So at this point, you're probably saying to yourself, "Oh wow, Duke sounds like a pretty nice guy." Sure, we'll go with that. No spoilers, but sure. So here's a really unique loading zone in the game. It's dark. You'll notice there's like pits and stuff. If you fall into one of these pits, you go like halfway backwards through the dungeon. I'm not even really gonna focus on taking like perfectly optimal lines since you know, marathon. I'm just gonna make sure we get through it and don't fall in a pit, and we didn't. We're good to go. And I no longer need my notes for Backton either. Once we get to this point, the dungeon's very straightforward. Basically at the end of it as well. This is the last room right here. And then we get to fight the boss of Backton, which turns out to be... Yes, Raven? No. Oh, he's dead.
After all this time.
So yeah, now that Raven's out of the way, the good old traitor to the team, we leave Backton, and we got to go pursue the current captain of the Knights, who is a man by the name of Alexei. Now, Alexei is, for lack of a better term, extremely corrupt. We don't like Alexei. Alexei has this big battleship that he's summoned called the Heracles, and we're gonna be assaulting the Heracles now, which is the second longest dungeon in the game. The longest one being the final dungeon, and only by a tiny amount, honestly. So the Heracles killed a PB attempt of mine recently, a really good one, and I'll explain why when we get to it in the dungeon. But there's actually some cycle-based stuff in this dungeon, which is really weird for an RPG, honestly, and it can get a little squirrely. We'll see what happens when we get to it. Shouldn't be too terrible. Coming forward though, we're going to come up here and we're going to get a power up to the Sorcerer's Ring. So we can do a few more tricks now. We're going to come around this corner. We're going to walk over here to this computer terminal. We're going to activate it, which turns on these moving blocks. Excuse me. So these moving blocks are going to be pretty important for some puzzles we got coming up. First, we're going to go through this door. Skip this cutscene here, which explains that down below is where the engine room is. Then we're going to go back outside of the Heracles and work our way up the side of it. We need to find a way to access the engine room, because we couldn't currently. Now, technically what the game expects you to do is to go down and try to get into the engine room, only to find out you can't. But we're speedrunners, we already know that. So we're just going on ahead. And here's where the Heracles starts to go from kind of interesting to just really cursed. This whole next section is probably, in my opinion, the worst part of the speed. First thing, we gotta pull this block. Gotta love a good block push, block pull puzzle. We're gonna shoot this little wall here so it falls, and we're gonna walk around to the back side of this block. We're gonna push it off the edge, and it's gonna land on this thing and destroy it. Boom. It's gonna dispel this barrier. Now, you can see there are 5. We have to dispel all 5. But here's where it gets fun. I left and then went back in, and the reason I did that is it resets the moving cycles of those blocks that are moving from the terminal that I activated earlier. You can see them there. They're coming on from the right side of the screen. So we're going to come to the left here. We're going to skip this cutscene. I'm going to go ahead and use a holy bottle. I'm going to climb this ladder, and hopefully we can catch this block in time over the center of this thing. Let's see. Okay, yeah, we're good. Now I just got to actually hit it as it passes over that blue thing below us. Ooh. Cool. So that one's pretty free, I'm being honest. I hyped that up for no reason. That one's not that bad. It's the next one that's just terrible. If you miss it, you lose like 20 seconds, which sucks. And it's at a very weird angle that's kinda hard to see and tell what's going on, if I'm being real. It's pretty cursed. Alright, here we go. It's lining up. Now. Nailed it. Cool. We got it first try. That's really good. That's a really great thing to see happen. Like, it's not hard to do by any means, but the perspective's really strange, and this game doesn't lend itself well to like pathing mechanics and stuff. So really nice to get that. So we're gonna climb back up this ladder, and we're gonna go ahead and dispel the yellow barrier. Because luckily for us, just right over here. Shoot it with the sorcerer's ring. Then we gotta go down this path, and there's an enemy standing at a computer terminal. You don't actually have to fight him. You can examine the terminal right next to him, which is pretty funny. And then we have one more piece of the barrier to get rid of, and we're more or less done with the Heracles. Thank goodness. The Heracles really sucks. If I had to pick like a true least favorite part of the game, would definitely be it. Other than maybe that dungeon earlier with all the gears. So coming down here, we're going to grab this block, and we're going to push it all the way against the wall. Like so. Then we're going to activate this computer terminal, which makes the elevator go up. And then we're going to climb back up. One thing I hate about this dungeon is a lot of the tedium isn't like actually really doing anything. Watching Yuri climb ladders, which is, you know, obviously not very fun. Okay, so my holy bottle ran out at kind of a weird spot, and unfortunately I did get a little extra encounter here. Not the worst thing in the world, but it is unfortunate. I just hadn't noticed my holy bottle ran out yet. Or rather, it ran out like right as I was running up into that enemy. I push this off the elevator, and boom. That disables the last barrier, and we're going to go fight the boss of the Heracles, or the boss fight that's on the Heracles, I should say. Who's a good old familiar face that we've seen several times already. Should probably tell you guys who it is, if you think about it for a moment. Notice me without it. Oh, okay. I decided to do something a little risky just now, just to see what would happen, because I didn't know. And now I know. Anyway, welcome to Zoggy 4. Come on, just follow. Yes! It looks so weird, that fight, because he has a trigger. Once you do enough damage, he uses an attack called Poison Perfume. And if you just, like, defeat him beforehand, he'll use it and then just spawn back in dead. Looks really silly. This is the longest loading screen in the game, by the way, right there. I don't know why, but for some reason after that fight, it's just like 12 seconds of a black screen. For no apparent reason. Now we're going to come back down this ladder. And then we're going to go down another ladder. Right over here. When I get to the bottom, we're going to use a holy bottle, and we're going to re-up on that. Now we can make our way into the engine room. And actually stop the Heracles, which, thank goodness. I hate this dungeon. I'm glad it went well. As a whole, we did have that one extra encounter, but I've not gotten a run of this game yet where you don't end up with one or two, at least, extra encounters just from, you know, just little weird things happening. That's RPGs though for you. Here we are in the engine room. There is a slightly faster way to do this room that's very risky. I've elected not to do it. We're going to take the safer path. It only loses like, I don't know, 6 or 7 seconds. Something like that. Basically, we could also go to the right here and take a slightly shorter path to the end. And we're done with the Heracles, meaning we should be getting pretty deep into the speedrun at this point. We're deep in the game. So Baul unfortunately gets sick, so we lose our ability to fly for a little bit of the game. And our team decides to put a rendezvous here at Kapla Nor, first port town. It kind of becomes a late game hub area. All we need to do once we get here is leave the inn. We get a cutscene where some stuff happens, and we go back in the inn. Nice. Thanks for the monkey, Scully. That's a emote. One of my emotes. And we got our party back. And now we need to assault the actual capital city of the Empire. So the castle at the main beginning of the game. But I said we will be coming back here a bit later. Well, it is now later. We need to make our way there. Now we don't have Baul at the moment, so we can't fly. Which is the game's way of forcing us to take a very specific path back. And we gotta go through the snowy area that exists in the game. Hooray! Those of you, I think the only thing this game is missing, in terms of like hitting every good old JRPG biome, is like a volcano. Like you got giant mechanical warship, you got ghost ship, you got cave, forest, desert, snowy area. Okay, we got a third encounter here that is normally not one I get into. My holy bottle just ran out at a very weird moment, which, again, that's something that can happen. I think my PB had 5 extra encounters in it, 6, something like that, so not a huge. So here we are, coming up on the Blade Drifts of Zephyr. Dude, the naming schemes in this game are wild. This area has what I personally consider to be the worst part of the game. There's a boss fight coming up that is just truly one of the most atrocious things. And y'all understand why when we get to it. But first, I gotta do a little housekeeping. Now, if you're wondering, why is Kefka equipping Carol? Why indeed? No, that's not what I meant to do. I wanted... I'll just remove it. Then I want to use these. So these are called level ups, and they do exactly what they sound. We are just gaining mad gains right now from nowhere. And that's pretty important. It's not going to... I'll be real, it is going to slow us down slightly in the upcoming boss. Which you would think... But that doesn't make any sense. You're stronger. How's it going to slow you down? It'll make sense. But it is going to pretty much guarantee that we can't get a game over. Which is what we don't want. Obviously. Coming through here, this area is really annoying. Pretty easy to get turned around in. Everything looks the same. So we've seen the 3 big triggers with that sort of swimming monster underneath the glacier or whatever. Floating ice. What do you call these? Drifts? I guess maybe. Wait, is that why it's called the blade drifts of
You'll be gone soon enough.
You're gone. What is the technical term? I do not know. We did get an extra little encounter there. My holy bottle ran out at a very weird moment. And we are going to lose a teeny tiny amount of time right here. Normally I would never even touch a save point during a run. But just in case things get a little weird in this fight, I want to make a safety save. So this fight is cursed. Honestly, it's one of the worst things in the game because you are forced to do it as Carol. Now, this fight's weird. You technically can't win it, but you can lose it. Which, that's a paradox of itself, right? Like, if you can't win it, and you're supposed to lose it, why is it a bad thing to lose? Well, oh my god. The reason for that is we can't get a game over. It's supposed to be a kind of situation like an endurance round with Carol. Which we're doing pretty good with it so far, the endurance part, but we really need to hit it a few times, which makes the triggers advance forward a bit quicker. Okay, that's good. Okay, it went underground. Not what you want to see. Cool, we got a Devil Ray Drive in there. He's hitting us a little bit, just a little bit. I need to change my equipment. There we go. Okay. So we're good. We got through the Carol fight. Now we can fight it for real. Which is just as easy as bam, it's dead.
That's what
because of course it is. So that was I'll be honest, as far as the run goes, that was the one thing I was kind of scared of in a marathon. That fight can get strange. Anybody who's been in my chat and seen me dealing with that thing, you all know. That fight is just no bueno. But we're now finished with the Blade Drifts of Zephyr. We will be revisiting this a little bit later to play a rhythm mini game. Weirdly. But yeah. We're now officially heading back to the beginning of the game, almost. And, yeah. We're gonna just make our way on down this continent. And we're gonna go back to Halure. It was, the city very earlier in the game where we healed the tree with the Panacea bottle. This holy bottle should be running out any moment, and I'm just Taking some weird lines because I just don't trust enemy spawns at all anymore. I used to be a lot riskier, but I just don't. I'm not buying it. Not buying it. These things are sus. Very much so. But we made it. Oh, and the holy bottle ran out right as we got here. That's pretty cool. So we're back in Halure, and it turns out Halure is full of refugees from the capital because the current captain of the Knights has went on a weird homicidal rampage across the city. And we're gonna take, we're gonna do what we do best. Just take a nap. Got a couple little story triggers to hit here in Halure on our last visit to the good old flower tree city thing. Then Yuri decides he's going to be a lone wolf, and we're going to head to the capital all by ourselves. Now that would sound scary in a regular playthrough, but we've kind of been doing all the fights by ourselves anyway. Occasionally with a dog. So, on this playthrough, it's like, oh, okay. See y'all later. So we come up here and we get to go back through Floy Woods. The forest from the main beginning of the game. This will be the last time we see this loading zone as well. And at this point, we are quite deep into the speed run. We're getting pretty close to the end of Act 2, and Act 3 sort of just breezes by in comparison. So our dog decided to tell everybody that we were leaving, and they just rejoined us. Can't have a situation where we don't get text boxes telling us people are leaving or joining the party. We gotta have more of those. I've not counted how many of those there are in the game, but I should do that sometime, just so that I know the information. I guarantee there's more than 40 of them. There has to be. Coming around the corner here, there's a literal war going on outside of the capital, and it's a pretty weird war. It's literally like knights versus other knights. Like some knights are loyal to the people, and some knights are loyal to the corrupt captain. Here's the last bridge. Hey, no bridge encounters in this whole run. Let's go. You love to see it. You love to see it. We're back in the capital city, and things are looking a little weird. There's big flowery things everywhere, bears. Who even knows what's going on? Either way, we are going into the castle to complete this, well, I guess it's kind of a dungeon in this situation. Before we do much of anything, gotta go up here. I've often wondered if you could skip this little cutscene. For some reason I don't think you can, but I'm really not sure. Really now.
This looks like fun.
Probably the most unopportune holy bottle thing I've ever really seen happen. That was unusual, to say the least, but whatever. So, in order to get through the castle, we gotta activate some goddess statue things, which, that's some pretty classic JRPG stuff, I would argue. Go turn on statue. Statue open door. To be fair, the game was originally made in 2006. So, eh. But you gotta know the correct order for the statue. Oh no, how do we know? Well, we know because we're speedrunners. We are speedrunner person, and speedrunner person memorizes the puzzles. This dungeon's pretty short. The next two aren't too bad, actually. But at this point in the game, pretty much everything is just a dungeon. Like, we've been to every town. There's a couple other little things we do that are sort of, you know, townish, but most of what's left is just, like, the dungeons and some various areas with monsters and stuff. We're getting into the deep late game, which is probably, weirdly, my strongest part of the run now. It used to not be, but mid-game's certainly the most complex in terms of pathing and all that good stuff. Alright, third goddess statue, and there's one more we gotta hit. This one's right near the jail that we first went to at the beginning of the game. Right here. Cool. Then we get to go fight the two bosses of this area. And spoiler alert, they're the same boss twice. Very easy boss as well. Even casually, very easy boss. Kind of a letdown. Like, you finally come back to the, you know, the big evil Empire castle, and it's just like, oh, you don't even really fight any Empire stuff other than, you know, just grunts that are running around. Ultimately, don't really do much of anything.
I'm off to go and get some lunch because I need food.
All right.
So, assuming based on estimate, we have about an hour left of your run anyway, so
Yeah.
should be enough time. But in the event that it comes up to time, if you know about 10 minutes beforehand, just like give me a shout again. I'll be watching the stream, but I am just going to go get some lunch. So, yeah, behave everybody in the chat, okay? Everyone has to still behave. I will still be monitoring. So, you know, you won't get away with naughtiness in the channel and the chat and stuff, okay? A shout out to all the people watching. Don't do naughty things. I'm watching you, Matt. Right, see you in a minute.
Yep. So the boss here is Estelle, which is pretty crazy, because it's like, oh, isn't she a party member? Well, yes, but she's being controlled by Alexei, who I personally consider to be the main villain of this game. Although, there's an argument to be made that that might not be the case. Anyway, after we fight Estelle for some reason. Wait, no, I was going the right way. Oops. The castle gets taken back over by the Good Knights, and the capital's back to normal, so that's good. And we gotta go talk to all of our party members and see what we want to do next. Because Alexei has ran off and essentially unearthed an ancient super weapon. And we're gonna just go see if everybody wants to join us in assaulting the super weapon, or the place where the super weapon is, I should say. I'm pretty sure this is also the last time in the game that we have to just like go talk to a bunch of characters. Pretty sure. Yeah, this way. Taking some weird paths through here. It's all good though. Gotta talk to Patty. Then we're gonna come over through here. And we're actually gonna go back to jail. Only this time, we're not arrested. We're just going into the jail. We gotta talk to Raven. By the way, Raven survived and he's in our team. I don't know if I mentioned that before. But Raven is just like chilling in prison. Just sleeping on a cot. It's like, alright. Live your dream, man. Live your dream. Oh, you. Good old Raven. Sleeping in jail. And we're going to talk to the girls. And that sort of continues that last little part there. And then, if you had to guess what we're going to do now in order to proceed the game, that's right. We're going to go to bed. Anyway, after the next morning, we got to go rendezvous with the crew to do the assault on a place called the Shrine of Zalde. Also, could one of my peeps in chat give me a update on the time, please, of the current run? That would be fantabulous.
He's
28. Okay. Appreciated. Thank you, guys. We are definitely somewhat behind, but I don't know how much. Not like overestimate behind, but I was just curious as to what we were looking at. So anyway, here we are in the enduring shrine of Zalde. Lord, some of the areas in this game have just like the wildest names. It's like, why would you call things that? Anyway, the first thing we've got to do is we got to come here and we get this Zalde orb. Put it in this, and then we shoot it. And then the whole thing fills up with water, and you get to see the weirdest swimming animation I've ever seen in a game. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it a 7. We come through here. Dungeon's not too long either. Got a little bit of a tedium to it, but it isn't too terrible. There's 2 boss fights. First, we have Jaeger, who has 2 phases. That's phase 1. Then Jaeger kind of transformed, but more so his chest just starts glowing.
He's just...
And there's phase 2.
You had one. That was so...
For some reason, this cutscene here fades in, and you can't like skip it immediately. There's like 3 cutscenes like that in the game. I don't know why they're that way. Never really understood. But from here, we're pretty close to the end of this dungeon. There's a couple little puzzle things to wrap up before we can continue and fight Alexei. But they're kind of fun, actually. First, we gotta push this little column doohickey over the edge. And we just pull it down here. Like so. We're gonna go shoot this and fill this room up with water. We can see the good old cursed swimming animation again. Beautiful. Imagine being able to swim that fast just by like barely moving your arm while carrying a sword. So weird. Coming through here, we're going to another room where we have a sort of another block puzzle to do. Maybe one of my least favorite rooms in the game, but it's not that bad. I've just it's notoriously done some weird things to me in runs over the little while I've been running the game. First, we're gonna push this all the way against there. We're gonna grab this. We're gonna pull it all the way here. We're gonna push it into the water. We're gonna stand on it and we're gonna go. Oh, there we go. Fill this area up with water, which allows us to access that. We're gonna shoot that to disable this barrier, and then it's interesting. This one particular enemy.
This looks like fun.
I've noticed that other top runners are able to avoid getting into that encounter.
That was so.
Somehow. Why did I have team members? Why did I have team members? I shouldn't have team members. You know what? Oh, I've got a. That's interesting. What did Seal to me? So Yuri has a status affliction called Seal, which seals all of your skills. Huh. I'm gonna be 100% real. I have no idea what got that out on us. I have no clue. I've never seen that happen. That's never happened before. Kefka said the thing. Huh. Interesting. I could use a Panacea bottle to get rid of it, but I don't know that I should. You know what? I'm going to. I don't know. The odds of something getting weird in that situation are probably pretty high. I'd rather be safe. So strange, dude. Alright, so we're at the end of the dungeon now. We can make our way into the main sort of event. We're gonna come up here, we're gonna get an item called the Maristella. Which is not that important of an item, really. So that's some of the new Definitive Edition content. We're gonna come into here and we fight one last group of enemies.
This looks like fun. That was so.
Then we get to go fight Alexei, who, like I said, in my opinion, is the game's true villain. Now, unfortunately, Alexei thinks that he's getting access to a super weapon, when in reality, all Alexei is doing is, if you recall earlier, I was mentioning about how every city in this game has like a magic barrier.
I couldn't if the guild's using.
But unfortunately, what Alexei thinks is a super weapon is actually a
What? This guy's is he
barrier around the entire planet that's keeping the Autophagos out. Just essentially holding them in space. So this quote-unquote super weapon turns out to just be the on-off button for said barrier.
He does it.
Let's go. Cry out. Guardian Frost, you're dead.
Cool. Really strong Alexei fight there. That was really nice.
That was so.
Alexei played really nice right there. Sometimes he'll like run to the left and right and do weird stuff. So now we're in the last act. And the last act is a lot shorter than the rest of the game. First, we got to reunite with everybody. And what's happened here is after the assault on the shrine of Zalde, Yuri got sent into the ocean, but Yuri was rescued by Duke, actually. Y'all remember me mentioning Duke. And our very first thing we got to do is we got to go to Ospio, and we got to get the band back together for one last hurrah, one last little jaunt across the world. And there's a couple, you know, new places to go to. Nothing too crazy though. First though, we got to go get Rita, who does indeed, she's kind of our chief researcher, and she does have a plan to stop the Autophagos. Hooray! And Rita's plan involves taking the Apatheia crystals that are left over when an Intellicheia dies, and she thinks she can convert them into a permanently renewable energy source. So how's that for a plot line? At any rate, after we grab Rita, all we really need to do now is we need to go pick up Carol and Raven. They are in Dongrist. It's worth mentioning, it's a small time save that's pretty subtle. There are two entrances to Dongrist, the west and the east. Entering the west side is quite a bit faster than entering the east side. So when you have the option to do so, like it's not, you know, important for a trigger or anything, it's always better to enter through the west and exit through the west. We got Carol back now. We go in here, and we're going to get Raven back in our party, as well as the Apatheia crystal that was left behind by Belius. Now, in order to reenact our plan, we have to go to what's called a Fountain of Air, which is kind of just like a pool of energy, if you will. And we're going to be heading to that now. And the one that we decide to go to for some reason is the one in the Blade Drifts of Zephyr. If you recall, I did say we would be revisiting this area. And here we are. And we get to go do one of the weirdest things in this game. A rhythm mini-game. Super cursed. Super random. Luckily, at the very least, it's a very easy rhythm minigame. Here we go. Oh, wow. Complex, right? Really hard stuff here. Cool. We get a whole bunch of crap for that for some reason. And then we leave. And as we're leaving, we notice, and this hasn't happened yet, but I'm just preemptively saying it. As we leave, we notice that a small onslaught of the Autophagos is attacking Nordopolica. How's that for a sentence? Which is the Colosseum city from earlier in the run. And we need to go protect Nordopolica, so we're gonna go do that. This is a pretty tough fight in a casual playthrough as well.
That didn't work. You're dead. That was easy.
That was easy. Hilarious. Alright. And now that we got that out of the way, it's officially time to start wrapping a lot of things up really quickly. We need more Apatheia crystals in order to create... what we're doing is we're synthesizing them down and reviving the Intelecheia into spirits. Like elemental spirits. And we need a grand total of 4. We already have 1. That's what we just went and did at the Blade Drifts. Luckily, we don't actually have to, like, play any more rhythm minigames. We just need to go to kind of 2 other places, do a couple little story bits, final dungeon. There are a couple bosses throughout the course of this, though. We're just going to go ahead and get back on our ship. And the first place we're going to go, Mante. And we need to fly into this guy right here. Like so. Lucky for us, unlucky for him, he's dying. He's one of the Intelecheia. And now he gives us our crystal. And then we have 2 other places to go find some Intelecheia at to get more of those crystals. Now, there was a fight way earlier in the run where we had... Hold on, I gotta focus on this just for a moment. Where we fought an Intelecheia, and it was sort of like a scripted auto-scroller fight almost. And we're gonna go find that Intelecheia again, which turns out to be here in the... I don't know how to pronounce it. We're gonna say Aranulium Crystal Lands. Oh, I just made a big boo-boo. I'm glad I caught myself. We're actually not going here first. This is my old route. We'll save time for me leaving. Trust me on this. We need to go Relwe's Hollow for a very specific reason. It's funny how that stuff works, man. You get something in your memory, and like it's just burnt in there. So there is a very specific reason I did this first. You can do these 2 areas in... are you kidding me? Never seen that happen before. That enemy has literally never been in my way.
You picked the wrong...
But yeah, you can do these last 2 true areas in either order that you prefer, but it is much faster to do Railways first for a very specific, strange reason. There's been a couple never happened before in this run, but I mean, to be fair, this is the first time I've ever ran something near this long for a marathon. And number 2, it's a 3 like plus hour RPG speedrun. Like, you know, what did I expect? Yeah, Railways Hollow is maybe my least favorite non-dungeon. I mean, look at this. It's like a big, boring canyon. what we're gonna do here is we're gonna run down here and run up to this little Don fan looking dude. We're gonna use a dark bottle. And the reason for this is ooh. Yes, let's go. Really good RNG there. That was nice. The reason for this is there's a second enemy coming up right here that we can't avoid. And I'm just going to leave the dark bottle active. So we can just run straight into the guy. Take him out. And then bam. Oh, repeat. Why'd you do that, bro?
That was so
Bad doggo. Has the stream frozen again? Or are you saying Rutro because I said bad dog? both valid Rutros. So coming in here, we're gonna fight one of the last two Intelikeas left on the planet. And we're gonna, you know, drive them further towards extinction. Because that's more or less our hobby, is in this game, is just murdering things. Now we can leave Railways Hollow, and then we can go to the the Crystal Lands. Whatever that first word is. Ekritique City, that's it. I just hate this area. I don't know, it's just such a weird late game. Like, this doesn't look like a late game location. Is that just me? Like, it looks very, like, mid-game. So again, we gotta go back through these two enemies. So we gotta use good RNG there. Gonna use a dark bottle so that we don't have to wait through. The holy bottle immunity.
Keep your eyes on my sword. You're all right. Who's resound? O cry of victory.
Insanely good RNG for those.
All right.
So we got some battle dialogue there that I couldn't skip. That's nice and cursed. So now that we're done with that, and now we can go to the Irrelumen. Dude, I don't know what this word is. Irrelumen. Watermelon Crystal Lands. The Kerfuffle Zone. That one place that caused me to lose 2 minutes because I didn't understand something on like 3 TBs ago. So this area, the game sort of intends you to go here before you go to Railways Hollow, I would argue. But turns out coming here second is much faster for a very weird reason. And I do really mean a weird reason. So, once I beat the boss, which is just right up here, we're going to walk into a little teleporter and teleport back out and leave. If you come here before you go to Railways Hollow, for some reason, that teleporter doesn't appear. Which is a very strange thing. Like, I don't understand why that's a thing. Yeah, you
Guess
probably
this
remember
is
this
how it
guy
has
from
to
earlier
be.
in the run. Well, not anymore, you don't. Now he really is just a memory. Oof. Anyway, yeah, here's the little teleporter. It just takes you straight to the exit. Pretty crazy, all things considered. And from here we go to Papua Nor.
We made
Sort of mentally regroup ourselves. And then it's time to go to bed. You know what time it is.
Traveling.
All of a sudden, Patty's leaving. Oh no. So Patty's going back to the ghost ship. And the reasoning for this is, it turns out that Patty is actually a several thousand-year-old pirate captain. You know, it wouldn't be an anime game otherwise. And she wants to go to the ghost ship because that boss that we fought earlier turns out to be her old first mate by the name of Cypher. So we're gonna oh no.
Keep your eyes on my sword.
Whatever. Terrible timing on that
That was so.
holy bottle there. Like, super cursed, but sure. We gotta go fight Cypher one more time in order to release his spirit. Fun fact, the original version of this game does not have this revisit to the ghost ship at all. But there's so many other quality of life improvements that Definitive Edition is still, like, very much universally faster. We do have to put Patty in the party, though. That's fun, Patty in the party. Then we fight Cypher, and she's not actually in the party because we have standalone.
Who in the world is that?
And that takes care of that. So then we need to go grab everybody from the inn. Then as we're leaving, we get informed that Flynn is fighting off a bunch of monsters on the southern continent for some reason. We're gonna go help Flynn. We're gonna go fight some stuff and some things. And we're getting very close to the end of the game here. And whoa! I saw you! I didn't realize I didn't have a holy bottle. That lion was out for blood. So these enemies are randomly generated. Sometimes they'll be directly in your path, other times they won't. But all you have to do here is just run far forward enough. Then you have to fight a whole bunch of monsters. This fight can get weird sometimes. It depends on what Rapide decides to do, on how much he decides to interfere with stuff. Sometimes he'll be a little weird and like just completely go haywire. Other times, pretty chill. Now I know what some of you might be thinking, wouldn't it be faster if you have like a full party here so that stuff is just kind of getting killed really quickly? No. The technical fact, wow, that didn't kill that bear? What in the world? Get out of here.
That was so.
The technical fastest thing to do here would be to use Raven in your team, who has a move that just hits a whole lot of people. But as it turns out, I don't have Raven grinded up that way. That's one of the slightly less optimal things I got going on with my play. So from here, we have to go to Dongrist and Nordopolica, because Flynn is calling together all the world leaders to figure out a cohesive plan to stop the Autophagos. So we go and we round up all the world leaders. They all have their meeting, and they make the decision that we expect them to make, which is, yeah, you guys go deal with it. And, you know, we're going to do that naturally. And then we go solve the final dungeon. And we finish Tales of Vesperia, folks. Beating a whole Tales game in, like, less than 3.5 hours or so. So there's the first part of it. Don Whitehorse's son has agreed to do the World Summit, where it's like, what do we do about this alien invasion, essentially? Then next we got to go to Nordopolica, and we got to talk to the new Duce, since Belius is no longer with us, unfortunately. I can't believe I just did that. That was cool. There we go.
Just a heads up that I am back, so
Excellent.
I'm ready on the timer whenever you need it to stop.
We're getting pretty darn close to it. But we still got a few, but like we're not too far. So after we go to just 2 towns, somehow the location that Flynn was at before now has a whole city at it. Like, they just built a city in like 3 minutes. Somebody went a little ham. So, hooray. So the World Summit happens, and everybody's like, what do we do about this alien invasion? I know, let's send that one guy that just murdered stuff. That'll solve it. But before we can do that, Flynn's like, hey, you want to just go get really wasted and fight each other for a minute?
You ready?
And yeah, we absolutely do. That sounds fun. So we beat Flynn.
I won't.
As you do. I like how your dog just sits outside of the gate watching it too, like, ah, those are my people. Look at him go. We're gonna come over here and we're gonna go sleepy. And we're gonna skip about 4 cutscenes where all the characters are sort of just like, oh, the final battle, here it comes. Can we really go murder aliens? And we're like, yeah, we can. I'm pretty sure we can. We got a dog. That's all we need. And then we're going to the final dungeon. Hooray! Here we are, the Grand Tower of Tarkaron. You know, that point late in an RPG when there's just a big giant floating brick mass in the air that's got like weird lights and stuff. That part of the game. A true classic in JRPGs. This is, though, the longest dungeon in the game by a pretty hefty margin, I would say. It isn't too bad, though. I've seen worse. Most of this dungeon is just going upstairs and stuff. There are 3 bosses here. for us to deal with, along with one forced encounter. And I'm going to go ahead and give you all a spoiler. Remember that character that I said way earlier on that was important, named Duke? Yeah, Duke's the final boss. Now, he's actually not even an enemy, per se. He believes that the only way to stop the alien invasion, the Autophagos, is to sacrifice all of humanity in order to use their life forces to regenerate the barrier around the world. We disagree. This is more or less. Now, keep in mind that Duke would also, in turn, sacrifice himself to that cause. So, I can't stress enough, Duke is kind of not really a villain in this game at all. Like, he doesn't really... Which I've always found that to be kind of odd for this game. Most of the time, the main final boss is actually, you know, a bad guy. Duke kind of isn't. Duke's like, hey, we're going to destroy the world, so let's just destroy ourselves so that the world doesn't get destroyed. I don't know, it's an interesting angle for a final confrontation. Here's probably one of the weirdest puzzles in the final dungeon. You gotta shoot these, like, spear things into a hole. There's a total of 4 of them. Even more weird is if you shoot these in the wrong spot, they get, like, stuck on the geometry and stuff. It's really strange. There's spear number 2. Whoa. Around here for spear number 3. Whee. I'm gonna come around here for spear number 4. And this kind of takes out, like, the bulkiest part of this dungeon, other than the very final room, which is a very strange room, honestly. There's a grand total of 3 areas kind of like this in the last dungeon, where you're just going upstairs. The second of those 3, and the shortest. Now we have the first boss of the last dungeon, which is a good old familiar face for the final time. Zoggy number 5. Zoggy 5, casually, pretty difficult boss, unless you really train. But here on New Game Plus,
Just drop it already.
he's not a problem.
I will hunt you down until you're dead.
You're dying first. And stay dead this time.
Now we're getting really close to the end. We got a couple more rooms to kind of trounce through. And then we're fighting Duke twice. Duke has 2 forms. Like any good JRPG, you can't just have a boss be a boss. Boss has to have, like, 2 distinct forms. Technically, Duke has a 3rd form as well, if you meet certain conditions through the game, but we did not meet them. Which is good, because that would be longer. Here we are. Final room of the game, other than the final boss himself. This room's pretty weird. It's like a series of switches and such that you have to shoot. that's really all there is to say about this room. It's very weird. It doesn't look like any other final area I've ever seen in an RPG. We are going to take a little detour to the left here and shoot that. That'll be important for later in this room. Hopefully our holy bottle does pretty okay in here. I've seen it run out at some pretty unopportune times on occasion. You'll notice that when we shot that one there, that nothing changed in the room. And it's because something did change. We just didn't see it. It happened off screen, which I knew it was about to happen.
Fun.
I just had a feeling that our holy bottle was about to do something weird, and it did. It did, as expected. It usually always happens once in this room. It's really hard to get through this whole room and not get stuck with at least like one extra encounter from just, you know, holy bottle running out at a strange moment. We're getting very, very, very close to the end of the game now. We're right there. Got about 4 or 5 more of these little switches to shoot, and then we're trekking it straight to the final boss. Although there is one forced enemy encounter we have to do as well. Just one. Nothing major, but it does exist. And it's this guy right over here. He's standing directly in the way of a switch we need to hit. So, quicker to just kind of fight him and move him out of our way forcefully. Oops, there we go. Then we're going to turn back around and we're going to go over here and shoot this one. And it is one of the last 2 things left to do. We have 1 switch, 2 switch, final boss. That's the end. The game gives you one nice little walk though. We'll just work our way all the way over here to the right. Final switch. Well, not final. There is technically one more, but it just opens the path forward to go up to the final boss. Good old Duke. And there we go. So this is going to open the way forward to the final boss. There'll be one or two more like little cutscenes to skip, obviously. One of them, then we go up this set of stairs. And guess what, gang? We've made it. We're right there. We're so close we can taste it. Skip this cutscene, and then we can't skip this cutscene. This cutscene goes straight into the first phase of the final boss.
No, the future.
So there's Duke. Duke has 2 forms, like I said. Phase 1, actually, you know, both phases can get a little weird. Phase 2 especially, Duke seals off our arts, which can happen. It happened in my PB, and I had to just end up bashing Duke in the face.
Come.
Alright, here comes phase 1. Let's see what we got. Nice, Rapide. Nice. Okay, there's phase 1. Very good phase 1. And here's phase 2. So we're getting really close on time. I would be ready. Alright. Great, Duke. Time is when it fades to black. And time. And that's Tales of Vesperia New Game Plus.
I'm sorry. Lucifer. I could not.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that the run.
Yeah, what was the final time?
So, final time was 3 hours, 11 minutes and 36 seconds.
Cool. I was guessing about a 3:11. That's pretty good. I came in under estimate, which was my goal, you know. So we're good to go. Sick.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Right then, everybody. So, we haven't had any new donations in. So, we did not meet the barely there black bikini incentive, unfortunately. However, for one of the future runs, we do have 2 more incentives left which you can donate to. They're both polls, actually. Unfortunately, because of the system, you can only donate to 1 poll at a time with a single donation, but you could make more donations to donate to more polls if you want. But we have the Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal Energy plus No Quit exploit run that's happening later on, and you can choose either language choice. There's a choice between Spanish and German. Or you can choose the skin, which you've got Ninja, Santa, Piposaru, Tuxedo, and Sumo. So if you'd like to donate to one of those poll options, then be sure to do that as well, so that we can change the course of the run. So currently the Chooser skin does have £6 towards the Ninja skin, all the others have 0, and Language Choice hasn't had any donations in yet, so be sure to get those donations in if you'd like to see something different happen in the upcoming run. The next run, however, is going to be a race. It'll be the first race. We've actually seen it at InstaSpeedathon for some time, actually. So it'll be Garnet and Mr. Matt Internet, 2 runners who have been at InstaSpeedathon many times in the past. And they will be doing a race of Eat Lead, the return of Matt Hazard minimum percent. So that will be happening in just a moment. We just need to do sound checks and tech checks, obviously. So we'll be starting that probably in about 5 to 10 minutes time or so. So sit back, relax, and be sure to watch that run. That'll be a pretty cool run to watch as well, I reckon. And be sure to get those donations in as well. So remember, the donations go to Everyone Can. We do take a small cut at InstaSpeedathon. We will be taking a small cut from donations. It's just to cover running costs of the event and to also help us make
Just needs a little more power. But how? There isn't any more.
Come on, we gotta do something.
There you go.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to say again.
It literally just froze.
I just wanted to say again.
Carry on.
Thanks for having me. It was really great getting to run a game like this at a marathon. I've always wanted to do that. Thanks for having me run Elmo, and even the two runs I sort of filled in for. That was a lot of fun too. I just wanted to say again, thanks for having me. It's been a couple years since I've ran for you guys, but it's always a treat. Looking forward to the next one.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And tune in also. Stay tuned for the end of today's event as well, of course, so that we can tell you where we are going next with InstaSpeedathon to see what's happening next. Oh, it's going to be very, very nice to know what we're going to be doing. We have great plans, but that we will announce those at the end of the event tonight. So, thank you, Kefka, for the run, and we'll see you again soon.
Yep.